It just
Lord
told
have
me now that it is recording now.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Well,
that was meant to be.
unbelievable. I think I'll be able to recover that.
No worries.
We were talking about concepts, and
We were talking about conceptual reality as opposed to the actual fact, the actual actuality. If you can say that, actual actuality. No, I don't think you can say that. But anyway, there's obviously, from the way I see it, is that there's a conceptual overlay, which is based on what we could call the sixth sense, the mind. I mean, we have five senses always on, and then we've got this sixth sense, the mind or thought, which is like a sort of virtual reality. It's the description of what's apparently happening, and that description can be useful at times. Thanks to that description, we're having a conversation. But
well,
it is. I don't see it as the absence of that thought mechanism is not equivalent to the absence of existence, as he was suggesting.
Well,
so
yes.
In absence of thought, whatever's there does not disappear, and that has been my direct experience.
Oh, you're saying. So let me get this straight. You're saying that existence exists beyond the immediate experience.
No, I'm saying that existence, and again, we would need to look into the semantics of that word, because we may be using different semantics. Your idea of existence might be different than mine.
Right.
But I'm saying that you do not need thought for existence. You exist with or without thought. When thought disappears, you, whatever you want to call you, does not disappear. There's still a presence there. Well, let's put it. I mean, I can go back to the description I gave you before, using 5-MeO DMT. Okay. So, I mean, seconds after taking the first shot of 5-MeO DMT, thought stops, at least in my experience, or the experience. Thought stops. The five senses stop. The sense of the body, physicality, time, space, all that stops. Yet there's a knowing, there's still a knowing, there's still a presence. It's not a conceptual knowing, it's a non-conceptual knowing, because concepts depend on thoughts, okay? So there isn't any concepts going on, no space, no time, no body, no here, no inside, outside, literally no thing, nothing, no thing, except a sense of presence. And that was the experience. So that sense of presence doesn't or cannot disappear, the way I see it. Now, can I describe that sense of presence? Not really. I can't because I would need concepts, thoughts again to describe it. I can't. So if you say, does existence disappear when there's no thought? I would say, no, it doesn't. And if you ask me what was left would you say that that was the self? I don't know if that's the self. You might call it a self, or you might call it anything you wish. It would just be a label again. We're going back to the mind, trying to give it a label, trying to give it a description, trying to understand it from the mind. The mind can't get this, period. It can't get it. And if it does, it's not it. It's just a description. I mean, going back to Giselle's 5-MeO experience, I mean, if you take mushrooms or DMT or LSD, and you've got all these, fireworks, mental fireworks going on, and you can describe that. Oh, there was this goddess, or there was a snake, or there was a dragon, or there were elves, or there was, you can describe that because it's going on in the mind, as I say, as thoughts, concepts, imagination, etc., etc. Now, when that disappears completely, you don't disappear. That's the point.
That's very well said. You said before it's not you either, really, technically. But
no, yeah.
I think that's amazing.
We need to use language, but yeah.
Well, it's just, that's a beautiful way to express a very interesting question. There's no way to talk about beyond thought. I think we were talking about that earlier, and you were expressing it as what was it? Everything is thought, but there was no thing beyond thought, but no thing is not nothing.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. That's beautiful.
Nothing, meaning a void, is just another mental concept.
Right.
It's just another thought. You can think about a void, but in actuality, there isn't such thing as nothing. There is no thing, but semantically, when we say nothing, we're pointing at a void and an absolute absence. No, there is. It's just that it can't be grasped by the mind. That's it. That's the innocent.
Yeah, and that would also that would line up with the duality aspect of language and subject object. So you're not going to be able to, discuss no thing, as a thing in duplicity. It's impossible to do because it's, language, even thought isn't thought itself duplicitous.
Of course, yes.
Yes. So
yeah, I mean, language is built on the assumption of two. Why would you need language if there's only one?
Yeah. So that's the ultimate goof, is it not?
Yeah.
That to speak on these things to speak on no thing, you can only allude. You can only get so far with logic or reason, meaning, purpose, cause and effect. You can only go so far with that because, and this is where I think a lot of people recoil, because you can't explain no thing, but it's not nothing.
Exactly.
And people get kind of frustrated with that, in that they will look at it as a choice, why I think this way. And where I think what we're illustrating in our conversation and hopefully I could retrieve the first part of it because it was brilliant. And yet again, I didn't press the record button, and it was genius. Of course, it was genius.
No problem. It was meant to be.
It was meant to be, but I think I could retrieve it. But in any case,
Okay.
So in any case, I think people have a misunderstanding in that they will say it's a choice. Why think this way? Why do what's the purpose of it? And it's not a choice.
No,
it's like you said,
not.
it is what it is. Like you said, it's a fact. But facts being conceptual, it's the only.
It's not. You see, because you don't realize it by
Right.
thinking.
Exactly.
It's another. You notice.
Right.
You may notice it. Noticing of this might happen. And I think most non-dual teachings basically are just pointers. They are a set of pointers, and you need to look where that pointer is taking you to, which is beyond thought. Otherwise, we wouldn't need pointers. Right. It would just be explained, and that's it. Right. But the reason this can't be explained, you can use pointers, and hopefully, you will go beyond the thinking and maybe have a direct experience.
Yes.
Beyond the thinking. Now what happens is that most people, most minds, they take the pointers and they rationalize the pointers. Oh, no, this pointer must mean this, no, it must mean that, and then they're still stuck in the mind. They're rationalizing the pointers. It's like when you point at the moon and you look at somebody looks at the finger and they're trying to rationalize the finger. What does that finger mean? No, the finger doesn't mean anything. It's telling you where to look. You see? And so what can happen paradoxically in non-dual teachings, which I think is a misnomer anyway, but anyway, what can happen paradoxically is that the mind fills up with concepts about non-duality. And so now you're stuck with your non-dual concepts. It's not, you can't find it in the mind. Get over it, period. It's not in the mind. And so what sages or Buddhas or whatever, and we can talk about whether they existed or not, okay? I'm not going that way. But what they're saying is, you need to go beyond rational, logical, conceptual thinking.
Yeah.
And so when you read any non-dual teaching, basically the mind or thought will grab hold of these concepts and start rationalizing them. What does this mean? What does it mean? There's not two. There's not subject, object, and you're still back into the hamster wheel of the mind. Basically, what it's telling you is you need to look beyond the mind.
Well, for me, it's telling you that you're not thinking. Okay, from that point of view of a lack of foundation for thought, so there's no place from where your thought is coming from, and there's no cause or effect for it, and there's no destination as self. All of it is just tetherless, foundationless kind of appearance. And so for me, that's my thing. You're not thinking, and so to get to that point where you can understand that it is not a self thinking.
Well, you're not thinking, but there's thinking. Nevertheless.
Yes.
Now the problem is that the mind does the thinking, and at some points there can be this sort of hallucination or this magic trick, or call it whatever you want, that you are actually part of the thinking. You are there in the thinking. You can actually believe that you are the thinker. 99.9% of the population believe they are the thinkers.
Yes.
And you get caught up in this conversation. It's mind speaking to mind.
Yes.
It always has been.
Right.
It always has been mind talking to mind. Mind asks a question. Mind then says, oh, I must find the answer. It all happens in the realm of mind. And the problem is that there's a belief, an idea, that something or a non-thing gets caught up in the dialogue, you see. And
yes.
now, because most people, we're talking relatively speaking, okay, most people, they wear the thinking. It's so close that they are the thinking. There isn't enough distance. There isn't enough separation from the thinking. There just isn't. They are actually immersed in the thinking as the thinker or the sufferer of thoughts.
Yes.
And the sufferer of thoughts is still the thinking. So thinking definitely is part of the experience. There is an experience of thinking, but because it's an experience, there can be an absence of that thinking as well. And when there is an absence of thinking, you, whatever it is we are, doesn't disappear. It's like
and yet
saying,
and yet it's no thing.
Exactly, it's no thing.
Yeah, it's no
It's
thing.
no thing, because
but
if
not
it is
nothing.
a thing, if it is a thing, it would be something objectifiable.
Right.
In that case, it wouldn't be the subject. I mean, it's an analogy would be a TV screen. If you turn off the actual program and you turn the TV off, the TV does disappear. The TV set is still there. There isn't anything. It's just an analogy. I'm just,
Well, yes, sir. What I meant to. I'm kind of putting this in my mental Rolodex as you're saying this, and just for the point of conversation, the television, like a thinking individual, say, okay, within the same realm of this here and now of this Q&A, this moment, right? So we're sharing this reality, and where a TV exists and the program's on, where a person sleeps and dreams, okay, about sugar plum fairies, okay. The thinker thinks that the TV and they exist in the same world. The dreamer dreams about sugar plum fairies. The program of the TV turns on, okay. Now you could look at those things as separate types of reality, okay, where the dreamer thinks he's in a real world and then goes to sleep into a dream world. The TV is on, but the program is not the TV. The program itself.
Well, yeah.
So what I'm saying, is that absent a an origin for the thinker, okay, you can say that it's a dream within a dream, or the program within a program.
Yes, well, you said the person thinks. No, the person is thought of. The person is a thought.
Really?
There isn't a person that thinks.
Nice. Okay. So that's even better.
There isn't a dreamer that dreams. The dreamer is dreamt.
The dreamer is dreamt. So it's a dream within a dream within a dream. On the what it's like saying. It's like saying, well, unicorns aren't real. Well, they are real in that the concept of a unicorn exists within this parameter of our imaginations.
Exactly.
But the shared reality of us having imaginations is also, a dream. It doesn't have a foundation or a tether in which to say there is something real that makes us real and a unicorn not real. Those two distinctions. most people within mind think that they are real, and then unicorns are just imagination. Whereas you
Well, that's
are
the point.
saying, yeah,
I'm
whereas you
saying
are
that,
saying
that everything is imagined.
that's beautiful, man.
Yeah.
That's beautiful, really, truly.
Yeah. Yes. You see, it's when you really strip it down, and this is just my take on it, okay? Being dualistic again, just my take on it. But when you strip it down, it's pretty straightforward. There's no thing, which you could call it empty cognition, an empty cognizing. It's difficult, because words begin to fail now. But anyway, there is a presence there. There is a something there. Okay, and then we come in and out of that. We go. There's a conceptual mind overlay. Okay, which would be the program, the TV program, and you can have it on or off. It can be on and it can be off. Okay, and it seems to sort of cycle between moments of on and moments of off. So this is one sort of basically, one-on-one non-duality or Advaita, where we have 3 states or 4 states: the waking state, the dreaming state, the deep sleep state, and so on. But it does make quite a lot of sense, So at some point, there's a mind activity or a conceptual energy, or call it whatever you want, and this dreaming appears. There is a dreaming. Okay, I'm not talking about the sleep dreaming. It's all dreaming. The mind is literally dreaming. You see what I mean? So we awaken to a dreaming, basically. We awaken to the play of the mind. The mind is dreaming. It doesn't only dream at night when you're in bed. You wake up in the morning and the mind is still dreaming. It's always dreaming. You see?
I think I see what you're saying. Yeah.
I mean, the phenomena is dreaming. Phenomena isn't real in and of itself. It's just a permanent sort of hallucination. It's what we call life, what we call the world, people, and all that is not made of matter, space, time, which we believe is inherently real. And no, the world is made of mind, literally. The world is made of mind. We don't know matter, we don't know space, we don't know time as inherently real, separate things that are there in the absence of thought.
I was talking. You had mentioned Giselle Schwartz earlier, and we were talking about the hypnotist thing, and it occurred to me. I actually emailed her last night, or DM'd her, because I watched the interview again, and I got to a point where it occurred to me that if a hypnotist, because she's a hypnotist, if a hypnotist can manipulate the conscious mind and that reality simply by the suggestion of words and what have you, that kind of skill, and to imagine that your reality can be shifted insofar as this suggestion so easily within the dream of consciousness. What does that say about the reality of thought, or the reality of your consciousness? What does it say about the story that people believe they are in, and that there is an objective point in which you are real, and that is That's a
Yeah, but
fascinating.
it is. But
Fascinating.
we're going round in circles because reality
Yeah,
is
yeah,
a concept of the mind.
yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I like to call it concept because it's always a con. We believe that concepts, that the actual concept can be real, and a concept is always going to be a concept. There isn't such thing as a real concept. So, I mean, if you say, I mean, I think the closest we can get to it is reality would be something that is changeless, has no beginning or end.
ooh, that's good. That's good
And
because
that's,
that ties in with
I think it's the closest you can get to it.
well, that ties in with no thing. And I
Yeah.
think, you know what, yeah, that ties in with no thing. And I think what Kim and I were trying to talk about, and you and I were trying to talk about, and people have been trying to talk about for, the appearance of thousands of years. Um, to get that's an amazing thing. How to get beyond the thought of something and nothing into a no thing kind of, yeah, and yet there is no separation between what appear to be things or nothing and
Yeah.
no
Well,
thing.
to have separation, we need labels,
Yeah.
language, which is mind, thought. Language, labels, mind, thoughts, ideas, concepts. It's that is the realm or the dimension of mind, if you want to call it mind or thinking, or I mean, even mind is a concept.
The story of separation.
Well, yes and no, because you can see through the illusion of separation. So the
Yes.
mind
Okay.
will still project separation, but
Yes.
now you see through the illusion of it. That's the difference.
Yes. Yes.
You realize that just because a tree has a label called tree, and what we believe to be me, the body, has a label called me, the label tree and the label me are just labels. They do not separate anything. There is only one single experience going on all the time. Now the mind can chop it up into labels, concepts, but that makes no difference to the full unseparate experience. I mean, for instance, in the seeing doesn't say, oh, look, that's a tree over there and I'm over here. It's just seeing. Seeing makes no separation at all. It's the mind that comes and says, oh, I see a tree over there. But what was that? That was a thought. Without the I see a tree over there, where is the separation?
Right.
You need thought for separation. Without labels and concepts, without thought, there cannot be separation.
So would you agree? I think we're really close here. I like to say consciousness is the illusion of separation.
Well, it depends on how you define consciousness again, because some people use consciousness as a synonymous for awareness
or no thing.
Some people don't. Now, if you say I am conscious of that tree over there, that is obviously the illusion of separation, because the starting point or the assumption is this body is conscious, and through the consciousness in this body, I see a tree over there. Right? Okay. Yes. In that case, consciousness would be an illusion. Yes. And it wouldn't be what we believe it to be. Yes.
And
totally agree. If that's how we define consciousness.
Right.
As something going on in a body inner mind or inner brain, which enables this separate entity to be conscious of something else, then that is an illusion. That's the whole point.
And the foundationless realization, that I'm using loose language here, but the foundationless foundationless aspect of the tree, of the thinker, of the separation, you can look at it, as you were saying earlier, paradoxically, you can look at it as a story rather than an individual looking at separation at the tree. You look at an individual and a tree as one emerging, happening.
Exactly. The mind, the conceptual mind creates the me, and it creates the tree. Labels. There's a label for this. For this is me, the body. This part here. But wait a minute. Have you ever experienced only the body? Have you ever experienced only a tree? Have you ever experienced only the world without the body? Never. It's a full-blown experience. You see, the idea is, or the mind believes, that the world is made out of discrete, separate experiences. There aren't discrete, separate experiences. There is only one experience, which we could call the sum of the senses plus the mind, if you want.
We can call it not. We can call it not two.
Yes, and even that isn't correct, because it's just, we're trying to communicate what can't really be communicated, right? But if we reduce it to, okay, their senses, 5 senses plus thinking, and that is the sum of all our experience: seeing, tasting, touching, smelling, thinking. Am I leaving anything out?
I'm following you. I got you.
5 senses plus thinking, and that is the experience, not separate experiences. It's the experience. Am I leaving anything out in experience or in experiencing? I don't think I am.
I don't think you are.
5 senses plus thinking, right? Now, the problem is that 5 senses are always on, okay? Always working. You cannot not see. Even if you close your eyelids, they're still seeing, okay? And I'm not saying that your eyes see, but it seems to be, they seem to be necessary for seeing to happen, okay? And the same occurs with all other senses, they're always on. They can't be turned off, there's always tasting, touching, smelling, seeing, etc. And then there's thinking going on, and that conceptual realm will then go on to say, I see, I taste, I smell, I feel, I think. Okay, well, who's this I? Does it appear in this direct experience the same way that the seeing appears, the tasting appears, the touching appears? Does this I that is claiming to see, taste, touch, smell, think, does this I appear? And the only thing, you can only find this I as a thought. I is always going to be a thought. And do thoughts experience? Can a thought see, smell, touch, taste? Can it? Or is a thought another part of this experiencing? The question is, does thought experience, or is thought an experience?
Oh, well, wouldn't that depend on, what we're, the language that we're using? Wouldn't that depend on the conceptual nature? Are we talking about
No, but I'm being totally rational, mental, thoughtful right now. This is from the point of view of the mind.
Well, if on the one hand, okay, if it is experienced, then we're talking about the subject object nature of what appears. The
No,
guy
no,
that's
no, not
dreaming.
exactly. No, no, not exactly. And I'll tell you why. Because the duality does not deny experiencing non-duality. What non-duality denies is a separate entity experiencing a world.
Okay.
That
Yes.
is the real meaning of non-duality. Non-duality doesn't say there isn't experiencing. What it's saying is there isn't a body-mind, a separate body-mind experiencing the world. That's what non-duality is saying. So there's not a subject, me, the body, and an object, the world outside. That is what's being negated in non-duality. Now, that doesn't mean that there is some sort of experiencing going on, some sort of movement, action, movement, you know, as opposed to stillness. You know,
because it's kind of dual and non-dual. The question is, I think you were asking, is thought, does it have a tether? Is it experienced or is it experiencing? And I think it's both, is it not?
No.
Isn't it kind of both?
I wouldn't say it's both, no.
Because of, okay, within this context of a Q&A, right, we are appearing to be individuals that have thought, okay? And within that context, there's an experiencer and an experiencing. And then beyond that concept, we are talking about no thing, and the fact that there is no tether actually to anything. So then it would be just experience. So it would be both experience.
Well, what I'm saying is that the mind creates this fiction character called me.
Okay.
That claims. There's a claiming,
yes, sir,
in the mind that this me experiences the world, and this me is somehow living in the body, behind the eyes, somewhere, you know, localized.
Where is the mind coming from? What do you mean by mind? See, then we get into that definition of.
Well, from my point of view, the mind is just the stream of thought.
And so there's not really a mind attached to anything. It's just mind as consciousness.
There isn't such thing as Alex's mind or Howard's mind.
Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
I mean, for instance, if you pick up, let's take for granted that you were a baby at some point, you know, you were born,
yes,
and you were a baby, and you start picking up concepts. And you're now 50 something, and you've acquired throughout your life a bunch of concepts, a bunch of hundreds of concepts, ideas, etc., etc. Can you honestly say they were yours? No. You're just sharing mind. There isn't an individual mind. You're sharing mind.
Isn't that beautiful?
You're just copy paste. It's copy paste. You're spitting out concepts. There's not one single concept that is genuinely yours, that you can say belongs to Howard.
So mind is the appearance of everything, nothing.
Well, I'd say that mind is a repository of concepts.
A repository of concepts. Now, does that indicate dualism?
No, not necessarily. I mean, because dualism for me is the assumption, an uninvestigated idea that it is the actual body that is in a world being conscious of its surroundings. And the surroundings are inherently real things, separate from the body and inherently real. So the moment the conscious that the body is doing, the body does the consciousness, the wearing,
Okay. Yeah.
and it's an assumption. So although if the body stops doing the awareing, those things out there in the world are still there. The moon is still there, the mountain is still there, the car is still there, the house is still there, other people are still there, the universe, the planet, the world, it's still there. Even when it's
outside
not
of your experience.
outside of the experiencing, outside of the awareing. It's the idea
Universe
that
exists.
they exist separately and inherently. They are actually real.
Now, okay.
I'll give you another metaphor, another example. In a dream, you dream that you were 30 years younger, you had lost weight, and you were really, really fit, and how lucky you were because this lion attacked you, but you were able to run away from it and climb up a tree, and all this goes on in the dream, right? And then you wake up in the morning, and I ask you, was the lion inherently real? Was the tree real?
Wow.
Was the Howard in the dream, was that inherently real? You say, right. No, it was mind produced, right? You could say, for the sake of argument, we could say, no, it was produced by the mind. You know, the dream wasn't real. It was just a hallucination. You know, it was produced by the mind. Now, what I'm saying is that what we call reality, the waking state, it's just a continuation of the dream. A different type of dream, but it's still dreaming nevertheless, because it's all happening in the mind.
Right.
We believe that outside of the mind, outside of the concepts of whatever's going on here, stuff is actually going on.
Well, and that's where I think I think the distinction could be made here, that you are saying mind as, like, I would say consciousness, in that it's the illusion of separation. Everything that you think is real is mind, is what you're saying. But it's not. But there's the concept of an individual thinking with their own mind, coming up with conceptual labels and things like that. And the fact that they think that they are real, that they are a self, is in fact part of this greater mind.
Yeah,
the greater experience.
Yeah.
So mind is the entirety of what is believed to be an existence, and as a human being in the universe.
Yeah, but in that in the ignorance of the mind, it appears that there is a belief.
Now we're talking about the individual mind now, within the conceptual bigger mind.
No, because we learn ignorance. You see, the mind is shared in a way, or we learn mind. We learn ignorance from in the dream, okay, from our parents and from society and from our teachers and so on. Ignorance is learned
within the dream of separation.
Exactly.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
So in that we learn and we take for a fact, and we don't. There isn't. It hasn't been. It's just an assumption which hasn't been investigated. By whom? By the mind. The innocent that can investigate is the mind. What else can investigate? The mind.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
So what happens is that we there's an assumption that there is space, there's matter, there's time, which creates a world in which I am in as a separate entity or individual. That is the assumption. Would you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Now, who makes the assumption? The mind, the thinking. The thinking makes the assumption, okay? And so
the thinking within the dream, the mind within the mind within the mind, kind of.
Yes, sort of. Yes,
okay.
yes.
Yes.
But it's still the realm of mind.
Yes.
You could even say it's nested minds or nested thinking if you want.
Nice. I like that.
I wouldn't disagree with that. Now,
Nested. I like that. Yeah. That's good.
Now, what I'm trying to get at, the point I'm trying to get at, is that the mind, you can actually think out of the box. Not sorry, I don't have to use the word think. There is another realm which is not the mind. It's actually, and even that's not right. It gets tricky here. I'm saying that the program on the TV screen can you know, it can be so imaginative. It can be anything can be going on in the program. Okay, so we could believe, the mind could believe that all there is the program on the TV screen. Now, what can happen is that there can be a realization that, wait a minute, I've never actually been in the program. There's a different vantage point, the vantage point of what you really are, that real presence that's there, where you can see the screen. At that point, you realize that you're more the TV set than the actual projection on the TV set.
Nice. I like
right?
that. Yeah.
So you put a bit of space between the mind and there's a sort of realization, wait a minute, the mind can disappear altogether. I can turn off the TV. Programs disappeared. The TV is still there. It's always been there, you know. So what we would, in a way, we would be that TV set, not the TV projection.
Right. Not the not the material world that we appear to share within like this Q&A. And then our conceptual world, our mental, our individual minds, and our imaginings. Okay. What you're saying is, I think that the mind, where the TV exists, where we exist, you know, that we're this concept of separation within this reality is kind of like a level, whereas the program and that goes on the TV and it is its own dimension and what have you. You can have that as a thought, and that is also real, but within the dimension of the program, there's a different reality.
I mean, there's another way to look at it. Just imagine that you could turn all your senses off, including thought, right? So imagine that you lose your sight for whatever reason. There's no more seeing, and you've got some plugs in your ears. You can't hear anything at all. Okay, you're suspended in one of those isolation chambers, you know, with water. You're sort of floating in water, so that your sense perception has disappeared. There's no sense of body or weight. Then there's no smell. And now finally we turn off thought. Right? Can you imagine that?
Turning off thought.
Because yes, you know, turning off thought. Now, my question is, would you cease to exist?
You know what? Paradoxically speaking, you know, because it's not technically me, but I see what you're saying. The not even nothing or no thing, as it relates to nothing and everything. Okay, this being the world of nothing and everything. Everything appears as nothing, nothing appears as everything. And then there is this, for lack of a better word, experience of not even nothing. like no thing. And do I exist there? It's so paradoxical to talk about, because there is no here and there is no there. There is no me here.
Exactly.
And there is, you know what I'm saying? So do I exist as the program or the TV or the, you know, the not even nothing, and all of that. Now, do I exist? I think what you're asking is, or what you're saying is, there's
the beingness, the actual
beingness, okay.
or being, which is more like a verb. The being, would that disappear together with your five senses and thinking? Would it disappear? Would you go into a void and cease to exist? And I'm saying, no, you don't. You don't cease to exist.
I agree with you in that you do and you don't. It seems you kind of do and you kind of don't. It's being, you know, it doesn't have anything to do with you, but there's some kind of being there, right?
You see, every time, but when you say you do and you don't, it is and it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is only a brain fart.
Okay.
Because the mind can't get it, and so all it can come up with is it is and it isn't. It may sound very profound for the mind.
Well, like the sugar,
but it's not it.
Right, but like the sugar. Okay, to go back to the reference of the, you know, what we were talking about, sugar plum fairies or unicorns. You know, within the imagination, you know, so yes, the unicorn exists, but it doesn't exist as it's represented in that fantasy. So the fantasy does exist, but a unicorn as a horse with a horn on it that has magical powers and, you know, parts rainbows.
Yeah.
You know, that, you know, that actually within the parameters of cause and effect and all of that, other than within that dream state representation appearance of an appearance. Yes, it does exist in that capacity, but not as it appears to exist.
But I think it's more importantly, whether you say, but more importantly, whether you say it exists or it does not exist. And you can rightly say it exists as a concept, but it doesn't exist as something real. Okay, fine, you know, fine enough. That's okay. But more importantly is, does it exist as something separate? Because the idea is that the concept does exist as something separate. You see? Now,
yes.
For instance, let me give you an example. I mean, I seem to be in a room here, okay? I seem to be in a body and from looking out of the eyes and into this room, okay? And I've got a mirror there in front of me, and I've got a lamp hanging from the ceiling, and blah, 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 okay? Now, because I've got labels for everything, I've got labels for lamp, for the mirror, for the wall, for the window, for the door, they seem to exist as separate experiences. Oh, so there's the experience of a door, and there's the experience of a window, and there's the experience of a lamp, and there's the experience of a bed. They are separate experiences, and altogether, if I add all these separate experiences up, I have one big experience.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying that is not true. There is only one experience, artificially separated by labels.
Okay.
This is not a sum of discrete experiences. There is only one experience.
So is, okay, this world of everything, nothing, and the world of not even no thing, they're the same world.
I've got lost there. Can you say it again?
Well, I'm saying that, okay, we're talking about the tetherless foundation of mind. Okay. Yeah. There's no foundation. There's no tether. There's no objective point anywhere ever. So what we have is a dream within a dream within a dream. So we're talking about within this conceptual here and now, which is all there is. Okay, say we don't believe anything. Okay, let's not assume anything. This is the totality of existence. Okay, knowledge itself is subjective. We are saying I think our conversation was heading in the direction of what can be beyond here and now. That is, I think, what you were saying, beyond mind. Okay, beyond what we can experience as this here and now, as separation and things and consciousness. We are talking about that not even nothing that exists beyond the mind and beyond the sensation. Now, do you exist, or does it, see, because you can't even say existence exists in that capacity, but is it that essentially is this? Or are we saying that there is something beyond this? Obviously we can't express it. You know, we the only thing that suggests that something exists beyond this moment is that we cannot articulate this moment. We cannot articulate what we're saying. That's the only thing that we know is happening, that this here now is everything and nothing. We're talking about not even nothing beyond the immediate experience. And do you exist? It is paradoxically just, it's impossible to talk about that, because it is not even nothing beyond duality.
See, yeah, but maybe you could rephrase the question. What do you exist as?
Ooh, good one. Okay, yes.
Because you see, if you say, do you exist as a body mind, or do you exist as a concept, or do you exist as this, or do you exist as that? The moment you add something behind the word as, you're using a concept.
Does existence exist? You see what I'm saying? Does existence exist in this capacity?
Yes, but what I'm pointing at is that in the absence of even the word existence, there is, and again, I'm using words, so I'm going back to concept, there is still a presence, and that is a concept, okay? But I'm not asking you I'm asking you to look beyond the concept of presence, right? There is something going on there. It cannot be grasped by the mind with labels, with logic, but there is something going on there.
Isn't it?
And it's not a void, and it's not nothing. It may be a no thing, but it's not a nothing. Okay, there is something going on there. It just cannot be grasped by the mind. That's it.
It can't be explained by the mind either. The mind is the thing. Well, we have the mind within the mind. We have the greater mind of reality expressing an individual mind. But yeah, that's amazing, because the mind won't. It's just not the tool for the job. I think you said earlier.
Exactly.
Yes,
it's not the tool for the job, and it goes.
It's not
on
the
and
tool
on and
for
on.
the job. Yeah.
And in some cases, that can create a lot of suffering for the fiction character. Guess where? In the mind.
and so now there's the thing, the fiction character, who is in itself tetherless and without foundation, thinking about something even beyond the appearance of objects in separation that don't have validation or you know, any kind of objective realism or materialism that can be you know, validated ultimately. So what you have is, we're talking about a foundationless here and now in the apparency of separation through, you know, through conscious separation or mind and that story. And then we're talking about beyond mind, beyond separation, beyond not even nothing, as it relates to what we would consider existence. You know, like, is it a you that exists in a spot beyond this immediate experience?
I mean, well, let's put it this way: it's great fun
It's
great fun
impossible.
to rationalize, try and find
Right.
the right answer. You know, we're looking for the right answer, and there's all this concepts
Yeah.
coming back and forth, and we're sort of sharing, and you're tossing a concept to me, and I'm tossing you back another concept, and
Right.
this is it's completely futile. You do realize that there's
Well,
no way around it. The mind will
yes,
give it a try. you can bet the mind will give it a try. But
well, how about this though? Then the mind. But how about this then? If it, okay, so this here now is the totality of everything, um, expressing itself as time and space, and I don't know about your experience, in paradoxically with individual minds, and all of that, but for me, it's just always a question around me, or around my experience, like right here, right now. The two of us having this conversation is my life. This is what I have been, it seems like it just permeates everything.
Yes.
The questions that can't be answered, just constantly
Yes,
are being spoken of. It's hilarious.
But what I'm saying is that, look, if we take on faith, if you want, just on faith, although you can believe it or not believe it, but that there is only one experience going on, right? There is, you see, mind is the whole of it. The whole of mind is an experience. Now, what we seem to be claiming is that in this experience, there's experience happening. So one part of the experience can experience another part of the experience, right? That is an idea.
Yes.
Now, no, this is already an end product.
Mm-hmm.
There's no making experience here.
Right.
This is the end product. It's called experiencing, and it includes an apparent separate Howard, an apparent separate Alex, apparent separate world, and blah 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 blah. But that is already an end product. It is already the experiencing. You see, and but there is an illusion that in this experiencing, there's local experiencing happening, like Howard aware of Alex, Howard awareing Alex, or conscious of Alex, Alex awareing Howard, blah, 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 blah. No, it's too late. This is already the end product. This is already experiencing. And in this experiencing, there isn't any other experiencing, which means that anything in the experiencing cannot be experiencing. Howard and his body is not experiencing. Alex and this body is not experiencing. We are part of the experience, an inseparable part of the experience. You see?
Yeah, we're expressions within the totality of existence. I mean, or the experience.
Now, what happens is that the mind, in its sort of infinite imagination, says, wait a minute, there's a real separate entity called Alex. It is experiencing the world in the experiencing, in this experiencing. Now, that is not true. That is not true.
That is the story of a mind within a mind.
That is a story which is part of the experiencing.
Right.
That is not true.
So now here's the fun part. I mean, well, we can explore this. Within the story of Howard, within the story of Alex, we have these undefinable characteristics of mind, consciousness, separation, and not even nothing. Okay, so we have these infinite experiences, you know, that seem to go beyond what is traditionally understood as a linear, you know, series of events. And so even that is just experiencing, that is just mind. But
Yeah.
so within that, just this, would you say within that mind that there is something beyond finite or infinite? I mean, would it not be both infinite and finite simultaneously?
Well, but the question, but you see, you're
And something,
asking for an answer that's going to come from the mind.
right? Well, which is all we have in that case. Well,
How
we're
would the
using.
mind know? How
I'm
would,
yeah,
how, yeah.
yeah. I see
How
what
would the mind know? The mind. How would the mind know?
so it's a story about the
About
what
separate
is
entities that have separate consciousnesses and have separate minds that interact one with each other
right,
in space,
that have
time,
a
and matter.
that they have a past, and they have these stories, and this leads up to this here and now.
Yeah.
And within those stories and that paradoxical nature of information and experience, we bring that into this present moment, or we don't, but it's being told as time and space. It's being told,
Yeah.
or it's being, you know, it seems to bloom into this, you know, paradoxical. It's, I don't know. It's paradoxically moving
Well,
and not moving here and now.
mind will always say it's paradoxical. It
Right.
cannot.
Well,
It cannot
see,
bump into paradoxes. It has to. That's how mind
right,
works. It's
but
dualistic.
you alluded to, now this is interesting. You alluded to not even nothing as being beyond mind. Can you expand on that?
Well, what I'm saying, and I have to use pointers here because
There's no way to say it.
there's either been the experience or but you need to have that direct experience to make things click in the mind. Let's put it that way. What I'm saying is that, and I'll say this again because it's as close as I can get.
Yeah.
In the absence of the five senses and mind, which means in the absence of this, of what we call the world and the story of me, etc., etc., there isn't a void, there isn't a nothing. There is still something that can't be described by the mind. There's still, call it a beingness if you want, or an existence, or an existing, call it whatever you want, that is still there. There's a knowing. So it's like when I said the other day, there's, what are you? Well, you could say, well, I am aware and I know that I am aware. And I don't need things, objects, to know that I am aware, because I already know that I am aware. It sounds paradoxical, I know. It sounds rubbish, but it's the closest I can get. There's a knowing in and of itself. You don't need to know a concept, an object of mind to know that you know. To know that you know, you do not need to know an object.
Are you speaking on the switch in perception? You're speaking about a direct experience that changed your perception, the mind within the mind, the story of the individual, and which got you to think beyond subject object, self other.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that yes, there is the world, this experiencing that hasn't stopped. It's still, it's still very, very present here. Yeah, it's still here, but there's they call it an awakening to a higher truth, if you want to.
Drunken language, that's all we have.
Yeah. But there is an awakening that if the phenomenological world, what we call phenomena, if all phenomena disappears, I don't go down the drain with it. Whatever I is, and I'm not talking about the fictional.
See, now that is that's the bread and butter of this beauty, because it could be considered that the mind of reality, the mind that's telling the greater story of individuals and separation, that mind could be playing. It's just a trick, that there's just something just beyond. And what I'm saying is
well,
this thing that's just you just can't grasp.
Yeah, I know what you mean. I know what you mean. But what I'm saying goes beyond concepts, because my definition of mind is the conceptual mind, this sort of parallel dimension of imagination, of imagining what is not directly perceived by your five senses.
Yes.
And when I say five senses, I'm not saying my five senses don't see trees, they don't smell flowers, they don't feel rough surfaces, they don't hear birds. That is an overlay of the mind. There is smelling, tasting, touching. Okay, I mean, a baby, we could say that a baby doesn't know that it's in the hands of its mother. It doesn't know that. It hasn't created a concept of what a mother is, etc., etc. Okay, a baby, when it shits on itself, doesn't know it's smelling shit. If you see what I mean.
Right.
Okay, a baby doesn't know it's drinking milk. Doesn't know what it's taste. It doesn't know it's tasting milk. Okay, that is all has been learned. It's conceptual. Okay, but there are still five senses going on. Five senses are still going on. Okay, it's just there isn't a labeling of what's going on. There isn't a description, but the five senses are still there.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I'm saying is that what I define as mind is this story about what's going on. So without the story about what's going on, and even without the five senses actively working, let's say, there is still a sense of presence, a beingness.
Beyond senses, there is a sense.
Beyond senses and beyond thought, there is still a presence, an awareness that I am, that there's something.
And this is beyond beyond the story of mind, beyond the story of sensation, beyond the story of subject object. And
I mean,
yet, paradoxically, I'm sorry, go ahead, sir.
I'll give you an example. I mean, let's say that and again, this is dualistic because we're talking about a body. Imagine that you're lying in bed, deep sleep.
Yes.
Nothing seems to be going on, right? There's no dreams, no sense experience. There's seeing, tasting, touching, smelling in deep sleep. Okay, no thoughts, no concept. And I say, Howard, wake up. Well, you wake up, right?
Yes.
Now, what wakes up?
Yes. I mean, is it an awareness of self or other? Is it me? What is it first?
There's still an awareness, even without senses and even without mind. There's still awareness there.
Okay, so you're saying, okay, let me get this straight. You're saying that this is all there is, and it's the story of a mind, or it's the story the mind tells about individual minds in separation, and yet direct experience within that story of individuality and separation. We have this thing called consciousness or whatever, and we're aware of this linear timeline that in some part within this story of here and now, before here and now, there is the story of a before here and now that left sensation, left self, left others, left separation altogether, and somehow brings that into this here and now. So we have a linear time frame and we have no time. So there's no time or space, yet within that no time or space are these representations of people, expressions of people that have experiences in time and space that go beyond time and space. It's a mind bender, but that's kind of where we're at.
What I'm trying to get at is that at the end of the day, the description is not the fact.
Yes. Okay.
And that's it. I mean, whatever the mind says is going on. I mean, I could say, I'm having a conversation with Howard. You know, I'm talking to Howard. I'm sitting here on my bed, and I'm talking to Howard. And wait a minute, where's Howard? Oh, Howard is over there on the screen. That's not Howard. That's an image. It's lights and colors. That's not Howard. Well, but I can hear him. Are you hearing Howard, or are you hearing a sound coming out of the laptop or the? I mean, what are you hearing? Oh no, I know that I'm hearing Howard. I know that Howard is on the other side of the planet, in the US, and he's sitting in front of another computer and he's talking. No, I don't know that for a fact. Well, I imagine that. I imagine the mind imagines that. I don't know that for a fact in direct experience.
Okay, so as far as that is concerned, now let's put that to your shift, your direct experience that shifted your perspective within that concept of an Alex in a linear time and space. You within your lifetime, okay, have had this shift. Clearly, it's paradoxically have experienced not even nothing, and it's impossible to describe. But you as an individual here now, the illusion of you and me in separation, talking about going beyond separation. You see what I'm saying? We here now are foundationless in that we are just the mind, as you described, the story of the mind, the expression of the mind. But within that expression of a mind, it's like the dream. It's like the unicorn saying, you know, trying to jump out of the dream and come into this reality and say, "I am real," you know, and part of rainbow, and then go back into the dream. You see what I'm saying? I mean, you're describing.
Yes, but in a way, I think it's because there's this idea that I'm confined exclusively to this body. You know, I live in the body, right? That is I think one of the major mistakes in the thinking process. I'm the body, but the only thing that's telling you that you are the body is the thought that says you are the body. Because if you take away thought and you just leave your other 5 senses on, well, when I say you don't do anything with your thoughts, okay? But just so that you see where I'm getting at. In the absence of thought, there's seeing of a body, but there's also a seeing of a room, a ceiling, other stuff. When I say, and even that is not true because I'm already labeling it, okay? But there's seeing going on, and the seeing does not distinguish my hand or the hand from what it's holding, which is in this case a smartphone, which I'm using for this conversation. The seeing doesn't distinguish that, okay? But there's a thought that says part of the seeing is a body and it's yours. Another part of the seeing is the world and it's not you. And that is thought-based. It's been learned. It's actually being learned. Is it? And I'm saying that that has to be questioned, whether we can really say that part of the seeing is me and another part of the seeing is not me. Okay? I mean, it's either all you, the hand, but also the room, also the other people in the room, also it's either all you, all the seeing, all the tasting, all the smelling, all the touching, it's either all you or none of it is you. But you can't just keep part of it. Oh no, thought says this part of the seeing experience is Alex. And that part over there is not Alex. That now is a car, a person, a tree, a house. That part of the seeing, no, that's not Alex. And the only separation, which is not a real separation, indirect experience, the indirect experience there isn't separation. The only separation is an imagined separation made with labels, made by the mind. And Alex can't be the same as a Howard. Howard is Howard, Alex is Alex. Wait a minute, those are just thoughts. Thoughts don't separate.
So we, as say a dream concept of the mind, have are you saying there's hope for the individual? Is that
hope?
There's something other.
There's no hope for the individual.
Are you saying that there is? So you're saying there's? See, what I'm saying is that if we're dreams, okay, and this is just a concept of self and separation, and what I'm saying is, and I know what you're saying. I'm just saying for the sake of conversation and exploring this. See, weird concepts of this mind, the greater mind that creates these individual minds, in this story of time and space, or this story of separation. And within this story, us as individuals both have our awakening stories, or whatever you want to call that. All right, it brings us to this point of speaking about what we can't talk about. I mean, it's just impossible. So what I'm saying is that mind, that dream within that dream, can the unicorn say that the unicorn has that same paradoxical capacity? Does the unicorn have hope? Okay, so that's what I'm saying. Because we're dreams having dreams.
Yes, I mean, talking about an awakening, talking about it is always going to be a story.
Yeah.
It's always going to be a story because you're talking about it.
Right. Yeah, it's duplicitous.
Now that doesn't mean that some sort of a shift apparently happens.
Yeah.
But the shift in and of itself is not the description of the shift.
Right.
So anything that I can say about it has to be a story, because I'm using concepts, ideas, mind. It's a story. The moment it comes out of your mouth, it's already a story. Well, I mean, if we talked about this, like the description of a eating an apple. The moment you make the description is already not it.
Well,
it's already
it's completely it's completely conceptual, because you can't tell me what an apple tastes like.
No, I can't.
I can't tell you what the color green is.
Not with descriptions, obviously. No, descriptions.
We can't share that. There is no shared reality in that respect.
No, because direct experience is not the same as the description.
It's completely subjective.
And the direct experience is a direct experience, and the direct experience is always unique. It's always new and fresh, and always changing. So the moment you try and catch it with a description, it's long past, and the description is not it.
Right. Well, it's so beautiful, because I'm sitting there, and it's like, the two of us don't, we can't share our, there's a limitation to the illusion of our separate shared reality. And at the same time, as you're pointing this out, I'm thinking the funny part about it is we're saying neither of us exist, but I mean, we exist, but we don't exist as we appear, but we're not separate. Okay. And nothing is as it appears. And not even nothing. Not even nothing.
And wouldn't that be your description of a dream?
It's so beautiful. It's so pure.
Yeah,
it's just perfect.
I mean, you see, in last night's dream, let's pretend that that Howard, the fiction character, had a dream, which is not true. But okay, for the sake of argument, in last night's dream, was there anything separate in the dream?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yes.
Inherently, really separate. Was there anything separate in the dream? I mean, separate from what? It was a dream. Okay, it was imagined. It was, conceptually, you could say there was separateness. Oh, conceptually, there was a Howard, and there was this tiger running after, trying to chase the Howard. Conceptually, but did anything actually happen? And was there any real separation in the dream?
My thing has always been in this regard, and on this subject particularly, the dream within a dream. I would love to be able to take a flag or a beach towel out of one dream, okay, and wake up in another
and have it
with
in your
like
hand.
a ribbon. And have it in your hand. I mean, can that be? Can those? Can that? And in a way, I feel, and this is all drunken, paradoxical. I'm not claiming truth, but I feel within this story that when you experience that shift of not even nothing and no separation and all of that, that ungraspable stuff, you bring back, okay, paradoxically speaking, of course, that from that, for lack of a better term, objective reality into the subjective plane of and all of that is even yet still is the story of Xanadu beyond mind.
Exactly,
and
because I'm not saying that there's an awakening from the dream. Right. I'm saying that there's an awakening to the dream. There's nothing to awake from the dream. What would awake from the dream?
So can your dream, see, now here's the thing. So yes, I had a dream last night, as a matter of fact, and there was a guy that came up to me. I have not been able to remember a dream in decades. I had a dream last night where a guy walked up to me and said something, just very, very specific, very, kind of like, you're not gonna make it or whatever. It's like, who are you fooling? And just walked away. And it was so real. It was like, here's some guy coming out of nowhere telling me something negative and just walking away. And that was the entirety of the dream. And I was like, now I am having a dream about a guy telling me that, you're going to be exposed for, the idiot you are, whatever. And that's what I took from it. What are you doing? And so what now, is any of that separate at all? I mean, are we separate? Is that separate? Yeah.
Well, let's just do a bit more imagination, because all we're doing is imagining. I mean, we've spent, I don't know how long, 2 hours perhaps, imagining. All we're doing is imagining, right? Right. We're not going anywhere. We're not getting anywhere. All we're doing is imagining. Okay. Now, let's say that the mechanisms that have produced last night's dream are still actually in effect. That it's still dreaming. Why would there be any difference? Why would this be different from last night's dream?
Right.
I mean, even from a materialistic point of view, where we believe there's something objectively real out there, and this body mind, through its senses, information is going into your five senses, and somewhere in the brain, and I know you don't like that idea, but let's say
that's fine.
for the exercise, you know, the brain somehow is making a mock-up, or it's putting together all the pieces of a real external world to the five senses, and it's making a virtual reality in the brain. Now, what is being experienced is that virtual reality, not the real world outside, made of space, time, and matter. What's being experienced is that sort of blend of the five senses plus thought. That is already the experiencing, right? So, although we believe that I am in this is a real room, you know, and I can point out at the ceiling with my hand. That over there is the ceiling. And this is a real room, and I'm confined to this body. Wait a minute. If you take for granted that this experience is already virtual, it's already a sort of hallucination made by the brain. It's made up. Okay. We are already in that sort of matrix. We are already in that virtual world.
Right.
See?
So the unicorn as it relates to not even nothing. Okay. Because here we are in this aspect of this apparent shared reality, which is subjective and tetherless. We are dreaming, okay, on the one hand, on a subconscious, we're sleeping, we're dreaming of a unicorn. On the other hand, we have an experience, a direct experience. Now, as a dream, I am dreaming a unicorn. As a dream, I am talking about direct experience beyond the self and other. So how can the unicorn say there is a magical pixie dust world?
But, you know, but note that you're always saying I am.
Yes. Well, the I am.
So really,
of the expression.
We could say there's just dreaming going on, you know.
Right.
There's sort of all these sort of weird. I mean, for instance, another example: people that take drugs or psychedelics, you know, and all of a sudden you start seeing the tree seems to be breathing. I know people that take an LSD, and the tree was breathing, and you say, okay, can a tree breathe, or is it the illusion in mind that is dreaming? Do we actually see the tree, or do we just experience what the mind makes up of the tree? Because in that case, anything can happen to that tree. The tree can breathe, it can go up in flames, it can disappear. Anything could happen because it's actually happening already in mind.
Right.
You see? I don't know. I have no proof that there is a real tree out there. I've never experienced a tree.
Well, so we have
what's called a tree. There is an experience of what's called a tree in the mind. Maybe we could say that. But can we really say that we experience a tree?
No.
A real tree out there, separate from the body. That is not happening.
Right. And similarly, we cannot say with direct experience that exists within the capacity of what we are talking about this tree exists in.
Well, that's why when we started this conversation, I think we need to refine semantics a bit more.
Yeah, I wanted to make clear I didn't record that first 10 minutes, and it was really really important for the rest of the conversation. I think that through. Yeah,
because I think even though it's not taking us anywhere, because it's still the mind, okay. But I think that it would be more fun if we can. It looks like we're going somewhere if we can refine semantics. So I mean, instead of negating stuff, it's better to redefine or make a new definition of what we're talking about.
Well, like with okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
So if we talk about a tree not existing? No, the tree doesn't exist. No, wait a minute. That's not. You need to redefine that. Take it a little longer. Are you saying that the tree does not exist as something separate, that exists in and of itself, even though there isn't awareness of it. Is that the question? Then we can say whether it exists or doesn't exist. Because just negating for the sake of negating, oh no, I know the tree doesn't really exist. Wait a minute. There seems to be an experience of a tree. It seems to be called a tree because I've already labeled it a tree. Is that tree inherently separate and real? Does that tree exist separate from the knowing of it?
Well, it's
if
no
there
different
isn't
than
a knowing of, exactly, that's the point. If there isn't any knowing of the tree, does the tree exist inherently and separately?
Well, there's no knowing.
Question.
So there's no knowing the tree, right? Because we're the mind within the mind. So which is just an expression of the totality. So there's no knowledge of the tree. There's no aware. There's the illusion of someone who is aware of a tree. There's the illusion of separation.
Well, that's the point. When you wake up from a dream in the morning, there's a knowing. There's a new knowing that the tiger that was chasing you couldn't escape the dream. You won't find it in your room waiting to eat you, because if it were real, it's inherently real and separate from the dream, you would wake up in the morning and you would find the tiger in your room. The tiger does not escape the dream, right?
So we're the tiger, we're the unicorn in this dream, and direct experience is the waking up of the next level of dream. Say.
Yes, because you see, I mean, if you say, oh no, the unicorn doesn't exist. Well, wait a minute, can you imagine a pink unicorn? You can.
It exists, yeah.
Yeah,
but it can't.
I can imagine. I can imagine one right now. Right now, I've got one in my mind. Are you telling me that doesn't exist? I would say it exists as imagination. It just doesn't exist as something separate and inherently real.
So can direct experience, like we're dreaming or thinking, we're expressions, we're dreams within a dream, thinking about a unicorn, talking about direct experience. Are you saying direct experience is analogous to that aspect? Like I cannot go there, like the unicorn can't come here. We live in, you see what I'm saying?
I'm saying that we're making distinctions between what is real and what is not real. Yeah. Okay. And what I'm saying is that the imagined unicorn is just as unreal as the real tree I see out there.
Yeah, but it is as unreal as you are, right?
Exactly. Yes. Exactly.
Okay.
Of course.
So is the unreal having direct experience? All right. Having a shift in perspective, right? So it's like the unicorn claiming to be the god of unicorns. Okay, and I am claiming to be beyond separation. So it's the same kind of paradox in that if the unicorn claims to be the god of unicorns, I mean, how am I to say no? If I claim that there is something other than this experience, and there's this direct experience in where separation, self and other don't exist, but I can't go there because it's not a me there. Yeah. There's no, and then this here is as relative as a unicorn being the king of unicorns or whatever. So there never really is a foundation. Does the dream of does us as an expression of existence within this mind, this greater mind, does this dream of a self having a direct experience correlate to the unicorn saying, I was dreamed by this guy in another dimension last night?
I know. I get your point. But I'll give you another example. It always was in the dream, okay? Because what I'm saying is that the mind is always dreaming, okay? That when you wake up in the morning and you say, oh, what happened last night was not real, but this is real, I'm saying that's bullshit. Okay,
Yes,
basically.
yes, yes.
Okay,
Yes.
it's still the same dreaming. It's a different type of dream, qualitative. It's different, but it's still dreaming, because it's when there's a realization that things don't exist separately and are not inherently real. Anything, which would include this body here or that body over there, anything, it's all dreaming. It's all because it's not made of some a real inherent separate stuff made out of matter in space and time, which is going to be there even if you're not aware of it. That is not true. And if you believe it's true, it's dreaming, right?
Yeah.
It's dreaming, right? And so
So the unicorn bringing a ribbon into this dream, and me bringing the ribbon into not even nothing, it could be just a succession of dreams moving a ribbon from one to another. But paradox. I mean, that's within the story of. That's just. Somehow you got me thinking about that.
Yeah. Now, what I'm saying is that there can be, and intellectually, I can't explain it. I can't describe it, and whatever I say about it is probably not even true. Okay, but all I'm saying is that in this direct experience, the show, the fireworks, the dreaming of a world with separate people, real stuff, time, space, real matter. Scientists have just discovered a new particle, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
That's the dream, right?
Yes, that dream can actually cease, apparently, it can actually stop, boom, end of the program. The TV has been switched off. There's no more dreaming. Okay? No more sight, no more senses, no more imagination, no more memories, no more concepts, no more words in the head, blah, blah, blah. It can stop completely.
In regards to death?
Yes, you could, if you want to call it death.
Okay.
It stops. And when it stops, when the whole show stops, there isn't a void, a nothing, a nothingness, and there is a presence. There is still a presence there.
After death.
That's what I'm saying.
After death.
Yes, well, because the death is conceptual. Death is the idea that when the body ends, then that's it.
It's the concept that we're alive in the first place.
Exactly. Yes, exactly. Yes. I mean, was the Howard in last night's dream, that Howard in last night's dream, was it born?
I was me, and somebody just walked up to me. Yeah, I literally
did it have a life?
Yes, I was me, and somebody just walked up to me. I was looking through my eyes. Yeah,
but that Howard, I mean, that Howard might have been older. He might have been.
It was me. Yeah, it was.
Yeah, but that Howard in the dream, was it born? Did it have a life? Was it real? You say, no, it was part of a dream. Of course it wasn't real. What are you talking about? Oh, but this is real. This awakened Howard that is talking about the dream. Oh, this is real. Okay, when you say real, what do you mean? Well, I am inherently separate from the world, and I am real, real. You know what real? No, what are you talking about? What real? Yes, right. Because I am separate. I know that I am separate, and I'm real the same way as that person over there is real. It's still in the same hallucination. It's still the same dream.
Yeah. Yes. Well, in fact, I woke up and it was literally like it was just me. I kind of knew I was dreaming, and somebody just woke up and said this very quickly and just kind of nonchalantly looked at me and said, "You're going to fail," basically, and,
Yeah.
and walked away. And I was like, "What the hell was that about?" You know, I mean, and I woke up and I thought, what am I trying to do?
I know, but that wakes up and says, "What am I trying to do?"
Yeah.
That
What
is
am
a
I
thought.
going to
That
fail?
is just a thought,
Right.
right?
Yes.
Which is nothing separate and inherently real.
Right. Yeah. So yes, the dream had a dream.
The
Yeah.
one having a conversation is not separate and inherently real. It's just a chatter. It's just something going on.
So this dream, I'm wondering, going to, as you said, awakening. It's not, you're not dying from something. You're awakening to the dream. So when you go to, when I was saying direct experience, what I meant was direct experience into that, not even nothing, where there's no subject object, and experience is just experience, because there's nobody observing, there's no separation. So and that unspeakable subject. So what I'm saying, that in regards to a dream, could I be the unicorn or the Howard in the dream last night or whatever? So what I'm saying is, it's the same thing. You're awakening to another aspect of the dream.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll give you another example. I love listening to music with my eyes closed. I put my headphones on, and I close my eyes, and I completely I'm immersed in the music. And at some point, when there's no more thinking of I'm a body lying on the bed with some headphones, listening to this recording, there's all this description going on about what's apparently really happening. Okay, now when those thoughts stop, no more I am Alex in the body or with my body listening to music. No, those thoughts have already stopped, and there's no this is a recording played by other people. No, there's just music. Okay, and oh no, I've got some headphones on, I'm listening to music through my ears, and the music is somehow resonating inside my head. No, that is gone. No more thoughts of that. No more thoughts. I reach a point where the sensation or the experience is I am the music. All there is music. Therefore, if all there is music, I must be the music, right?
Yes.
What else is there here? There's music. Right. I have to be the music. So there seems to be an identification. Something seems to identify with experiences, right? Because the same way that I can be music, I can be freshly ground, the aroma of freshly ground coffee in the morning. Beautiful sense of freshly ground coffee. I am the smell. I am the smell of coffee. If you leave out, if not you do the thinking, but if the thinking stops about who's doing that, at one point you are the aroma of coffee.
Yes. Now, I think that. Okay.
So what I'm getting at is that there is a something there. I need to use a word. That presence, or whatever it is the support or the life support for that dreaming. There does seem to be some sort of a support for the show to go on, in the same way that you need TV set for the TV program to project.
Interesting, right? Because still, I can't know what coffee smells like to you. Yeah.
No.
So,
but presumably with imagination you can
I smell the coffee.
Get the idea. Yeah.
So is the most difficult aspect. I mean, I'm sorry. Were you done with?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Well, you mentioned music, and I've heard this said before, and it's the most difficult thing to articulate, or even to, or it's the most difficult thing for people to get. Um, that the music plays the band. Okay, it's not musicians playing music. It's in the same way that the mind is playing the self. That you're saying your mind, or the mind that creates separation. Okay, the idea that you are a self that can become music. The hardest thing to deal with is that the story is being told of you becoming music, and so nobody's doing that. You don't actually become it, but it does appear that way within the story of self and other. But it's not you doing it, it is being
You
done.
see,
And the
yes,
music is
yeah.
being played.
Well, you
The
see,
music plays the
the
band.
story, yeah, but the story only appears when you tell it. In the meantime, there's direct experience, and that is not a story. The story is what the mind makes up of direct experience.
So you're saying when you try to communicate it, it becomes labeled, and therefore,
Yeah, obviously, the moment
but
you use
saying,
language, languaging is storying. Language and story is the same.
So what you're saying is the ultimate mind, the big mind that creates the illusion of separation. I would say consciousness is the illusion of separation, but we're on that same page. And that self, you're saying that the mind that creates that self and that expression of the totality of all, as that dream of self, you're saying that if you don't speak of it, you can actually access what is the dream. I mean, so are you saying that you exceed the dream that the mind tells as an expression of totality? Are you saying that you literally, okay, you paradoxically speaking, okay, can leave the dream by silence?
No, because the you that you're talking about seems personal.
Right.
And
so
and there isn't
really
anything personal about this.
So you being silent or telling a story, okay, it still doesn't get you out of the dream.
No, not at all. Right. But in any case, I think if we're brutally honest, there seems like there's no escape from the dreaming, right?
Yeah.
And it does seem like there can be more than a dreaming, nightmares where apparent separate persons suffer. Okay, which is, I think, probably the most interesting part of it. I think most people that go deep into non-duality and so on, at some point there's been a lot of suffering for that fiction character, or suffering in the mind, and so there's a great sort of wanting to know what's going on. You know, why does suffering happen? You know, and what can I do about it? Because if people were always blissful and there wasn't any mental suffering, I mean, who would care about non-duality, or religion for that matter, or philosophy, or psychology? Who would care? You know, ultimately, if you're really, if you're brutally honest, you know, who cares about whether there's separation or not, or whether there's suffer or trauma?
Within
who cares,
this,
you know?
Right. Well, within this dream experience from the mind, the greater mind, of this dream of separation, it appears to me that everybody cares on some level, about not everybody, but a lot of people care about the answers and how to articulate what they've experienced. But within
Yeah.
that dream, there are no people. You know, there is no self, there is
Yeah.
no other, and that whole thing where. But yes, within my dream, um, I'm not so sure that it's. I think you're. You know, I have to think about that. Would somebody look for truth absent suffering? And you know, what is suffering? You know, what does that mean exactly? Does not knowing an answer consist of suffering? I mean, does that
Well,
constitute suffering?
I mean, I think a restless mind,
Hmm.
a restless mind, by
Right.
definition, is a form of suffering.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. You I mean,
Even
you
if
had.
it's
I mean,
even if it's a very mild suffering, but it's still suffering. I don't think the mind has to be restless and thinking about metaphysics and non-duality and all this all the time. To be honest, I don't think it serves any purpose. And I think it takes it draws a lot of energy that could be used in other aspects of life.
right. And well, this is the fun topic, because what we're talking about is the truth, as best we can determine it. You know, which to me is the old saying: the only thing that we can know to be objectively true, or as close to objectively true as possible, is that there is no truth, there is no knowing in an objective sense. So but from that story of time and space, and like an Alex growing up, as soon as that child Alex becomes self-aware of separation, like I am the baby and there is the mother and I like milk, becomes all of a sudden a desire. I want my mom, I want milk, you know, or and like, what am I? And I'm looking around, well, why does my brother get milk before I do, you know? And then, and there it begins. What happened, you know, where so I was happy and everything was just the way it was, and or I was happy and I was sad, and I wasn't even thinking about it. And now all of a sudden I'm wondering, you know, it's beyond direct experience, like you say. All of a sudden now you have this cog in the wheel of thinking. You think there is me and something else and I must act, and there is that illusion of mind.
Yes, well, that's what happens if whatever this presence is, for lack of a better word, gets identified with the mind, because the mind is always trying to make ends meet and make sense of stuff, and the mind is active. Now, I think the mind feeds on this attention. It's energized. The thinking process can be energized in some way. And for me, I think it's sufficient to know, and it's not a conceptual know, otherwise it would still be mind. It would be mind saying, oh, I've got it now. I know it. I know what's going on. That is what the mind says, okay? But knowing that you're not the mind, you are aware of the mind. There's awareness of the mind.
Awareness of the story that the mind tells about physicality, yes.
Or whatever.
Whatever, yeah.
Okay, so it's, for me, it's not about finding ultimate truth, because mind cannot find ultimate truth.
Can't do it, yeah.
It can't. But it's already enough. It's already enough to know that this constant dialogue is the mind speaking to itself, and it's not you.
Yes. So yes. So in that beauty, dare I say, that just kind of arises. What we have is, and that's what I mean by the music plays the band, in that this is being expressed as two individuals trying to talk about these paradoxical things, but that is the mind, as you call it, the greater mind, telling the story of separation and the inability to go beyond it. Yeah.
If you when the mind asks what happened, the mind gives the answer, and it tells a story.
Right.
The mind kicks in and says, "This happened," and it tells a story. It's a,
But
the mind will ask the question, and the mind will give the answer. It's self-contained, yet you're seeing the mind.
Right, but
and sometimes it could be hilarious. The mind says to itself.
Well, see, so what is there a difference between your mind in this expression of a dream of experience of this reality, your individual mind, and this greater mind that creates the illusion of the self with the mind? See, because you're using mind as an individual and mind as the totality of what can be known by an individual. So there's two separate minds that you're kind of going back and forth from, and I'm trying to decipher because one doesn't have a cause or effect or any answer or anything like that. It's just expressing us, right? So that's what I mean by the music plays the band, because it's not you actually thinking, it's this greater mind expressing you, making the illusion that you think you're thinking and making
no, there isn't such thing as a personal mind.
Okay, so there is no personal mind.
What's this separate entity
right
that creates or owns or suffers the mind? Where is it? You can't find it. You won't find it, except in the mind.
And so, except in the greater mind that you're saying is just this causeless, spaceless, effectless. Well, it's not effectless. I mean, because like you said, we have to use some kind of words. We're calling it everything and nothing, but it comes from a causeless, a spaceless, a dimensionless thing that you are referring to as the mind. And that mind makes what we appear to be existing in this here now. But it has no reason, or it has no reason.
You could even say that nothing really happened, because whatever you say has happened is a story, a description.
So to have a meaning, a purpose, or a reason within a here and a now is the illusion of separation and cause and effect, matter and motion, time and space. So the mind, is this kind of generator of this. It's just this, right? And within this is us.
Yes, exactly. But the only thing is that, I mean, if I were, from a very sort of rational, personal point of view, if I could take any sort of advantage of any knowing, something useful for me, for Alex, which is a bit senseless, but anyway, it's the fact that the mind is self-contained. It is part of the experiencing. This sense of presence or this beingness is not the mind. It doesn't depend on the mind. Okay. And
on the little mind.
Yes, exactly. On the little mind.
The individual mind.
Yeah, exactly. What the mind is saying, the story it's telling, blah, 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 all that can disappear, can stop, and yet this beingness, this sense of presence is always here. They're not intertwined. One doesn't need the other.
Well, I forgot the fellow's name, but he said, self always accompanies thought, but thought does not always accompany self. Now, I mean, that's loose language. It's kind of but that's kind of where we're going with this. So the self is kind of a tricky word there in this aspect. But so we're talking about there is a presence beyond the mind, whether it be the dream mind or the expressive mind or the actual causeless, spaceless, just the weirdest thing is because it's, you know, there's no term for it, so it's just the happening not happening. We can call that mind, the greater mind that is expressing the little individual.
I mean, in Buddhism they call it, or in Zen they call it Buddha mind.
Buddha mind. Okay.
And
so
in Advaita they call it Brahman, or sometimes they call it awareness. It doesn't really matter what you want to call it. All I'm saying is that the realm of the mind is not the full story, the full knowing, so to speak. There's more to that
so there
than the
is
mind.
more.
Yes.
So there is more to existence than what appears in this here and now. Though
Exactly.
it is paradoxical to talk in this way about it. So you're saying that there is something beyond this, but it's not even no thing. So
yes, exactly. Yeah. You know, the word existence, I think it comes from Latin, which means existere, which means to stand out. Right? So to say that something exists is to say that something stands out. Now, when I use the word existence, I don't use it in that sense, because lots of stuff seems to stand out in the mind. You know, I can see a mirror which seems to stand out from the wall. Therefore, I say the mirror exists. You know? And I can see a tree that stands out from the background. Therefore, I can say that the tree exists. It stands out. It's apparent. It seems to be real in and of itself. I'm not talking about that sort of existence.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the that the nothing is only conceptual. There isn't such thing as nothing. There can be no things, but there isn't such thing as nothing. There's always something.
Yes. Yeah, we have no existence, right?
Yeah, but that something cannot be expressed as words or concepts. And the mind can't get, you know, the mind does its best to get around this and tries to, but it can't. It just can't do it.
You know, it's funny because, you know, the conceptual nature of numbers, for example, require a zero and require an infinity. The more complex the number, the more they require these two concepts. But we have no example of those concepts within physicality. So we have no example of no thing. We have no example of zero. So what bookends what consists of our material existence in this shared reality of here and now is in fact bookended by the conceptual nature of something that we have no example of. So
yeah, but just let me interrupt. You just used two terms: physicality and material existence. What's that?
Okay, exactly. So the physicality is the illusion that there is something that is not physical. Okay, so we need not even nothing to complete the cycle of existing and not existing, though we have no example of not existing. So the death, for example, okay, nobody knows what happens after you die. We have no direct experience of that understanding, that nobody knows it, and which is the beauty of this whole, you know, in my opinion, this whole thing, the threat of the finite mortality. Though we have no example of knowledge of that. We don't know what happens if we continue or we don't. So, and in some capacity, you continue because it's so hard to talk about this stuff. But the reality is, so what we say is material or physical or able to be counted by the conceptual numbers that we observe our physicality with. We count apples in a bucket. All right. There's not actually two of the same thing in the bucket. We are
Yeah, but
there's no two of the same thing in the universe.
But what I'm getting at is, can you count apples in a bucket in a dream? Yeah.
I get what I'm saying is that the apple, in a physical sense, has no negation to make it exist or not exist in a material realism or reality.
Yes, but what I'm saying is that we say that it's a whole lot of assumptions. I think the mind makes lots of assumptions.
Right.
We say that the apple is an apple because we've labeled it an apple. Mm-hmm. It's not a banana, it's an apple because I've labeled it an apple. It exists inherently in its own right, separately, okay, in space and time. All these are assumptions, okay, in space and time. And if I turn my back to the apple, and I'm no longer aware of it, or there isn't awareing of the apple is still there, right? That's another assumption.
Yeah,
right?
I can't know that.
But
right?
no, but that is just make believe, right?
What's that?
All that we've made about the apple, just because you've given it a name,
right?
It doesn't make it inherently real,
right,
or separate. I mean, and this is another example I can give you. It's just another example. If I wave my hand like this, okay, you say, okay, that's a hand. It belongs to Alex, and he's moving it from A to B and from B to A in space and time, and his hand is made of matter. But that would be the same as to say that a separate entity called Alex can actually move atoms, can actually coordinate all the atoms in the hand and say, come on, atoms, let's move from A to B, make sure that none get left behind, and now from B to A, keeping the integrity of the hand. Are you actually saying that I can move, there's an I here that can move atoms in a hand in space and time from this point to this? That is just make believe. It can happen in a dream. Oh, that's different. In a dream it can happen, but in reality, can it happen?
No, because
doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, no, because there's no one, you're not thinking. See, that's where the music plays the band. It's not you deciding to move your hand. It is the expression of the totality of all that just kind of, we're puppets without strings.
Exactly.
That's the weirdest, the hardest thing to get is that there's no reason or cause or effect. You're not doing anything.
Except
we're not
for the story
thinking
of the
about
mind.
this. Right, and it's just the story of these intellects, thinking that we have control over these bodies or what have you. But that is, and then to go beyond that understanding and literally say, or literally come to the awakening of the dream, in that we are being, this is an expression of, it's not a self that is being expressive. It is literally just an expression from nowhere to nothing, and
awakening to the dream.
Yeah, and you, the hardest thing to deal with, or even paradoxically to speak about, is that we're not doing this, so and like the band does not play the music, the person does not think and have a will and decide things, so the music plays the band, so the expression of, and there's and here's another a paradox that I love is it can be no other way than it is, but yet what is isn't as it appears. So
Yeah.
it's just a mind.
It was yeah.
It
It was Ramesh Balsekar. He was the disciple of Nisargadatta. He would say the movie is already in the can.
It's already in the can.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And we were exploring that. And if I could just touch on this real quick, being able to leave the character. It's too much. I'm not going to get into that because it's your interview, and I would go on forever on that. So I'm going to leave that alone. But do you have an example of the movie is already in the can? I mean, can you give me an anecdote about that? It already, you're already written, kind of.
Well, of course, I can give you one now.
Sure. Please.
You've got your hand over your head there. When did you give your hand instructions to do that? Yeah. When were the instructions given to do that?
Yeah. I did. Well, that would, it would just happen.
It just happens. You can't say I did it. It just happens. Right. And the next movement, the next word that's going to come out of your mouth is just going to happen. You can tell a story about I did it, I thought it, I spoke this. But the fact is, it just happens. You don't know what your next thought is going to be, what the next word is going to be. When you walk down the street, or when you shave, or when you shower, or when you do that, it just happens automatically.
And so,
how can you say I'm doing this?
Right. And so as this expression that is already played, that is already written, okay. This is it. It's amazing. I was talking to somebody the other day.
All you can do is laugh.
Yeah, all you can do is laugh. I mean, there's just no way to do it. There's no way to go beyond the character and say that you're actually doing something. And so, but also there's no way to describe the leaving of, you leave the character, okay, in what I would call that direct experience of not even nothing, no subject object. And that's the thing, that the shift of perspective we're talking about, that goes beyond cause and effect. It goes beyond subject object or any kind of need of a creation or a destruction or a life or a death or any of that stuff. Completely, it's just gone. It doesn't mean anything. And then you come back into this world of separation, okay, and you're trying to tell everybody, how you left the character, but you are already written. You can't say anything that's not, you can't will it, and the other people can't hear it because it's not in their script, and it's not in your script to say it. But yet, this is the script, so we're talking about something.
Exactly. I mean, and there's no such thing as the way I see it. There's no such thing as a spiritual path. I walked a spiritual path. I decided to go to India, to a cave in Himalayas, and I did this meditation and these practices, and I met this guru, and then I was so diligent, and I put so much effort, and eventually there was this awakening. That's bullshit. That's still part of the dream. It's still the dreaming.
Yeah, but you still. But so here we are, subjective points in time and space, as I like to say.
Apparently,
right. We're apparently subjective points in time and space that, within that character experience, we think we have wills, and we make decisions, and the things that we do.
But you just said it.
Matter. We think. We think
we have will. We think that's the point. Right. Thinking.
Well, that's
thinking. The mind.
Well, yeah, but that's what I'm saying. We think, and then
until you don't think you think.
Right.
Until you don't think you know.
And that's the freeing aspect of it. I mean, again, paradoxically, and we have to forgive each other these the vocabulary that we're stuck with. But the thing is that for me, I realize, I'm not doing anything. I'm not thinking. And when I realize that, it just seems so simple to me. It's not me looking at something else. It's not me experiencing something else. It's and there again, it is that I'm living this character. I'm being lived or read, or how do you even express that? To me, I'm working on this little anecdote of leaving the book somebody's reading as a character. Your doctor, you say you're Watson or whatever, and you leave the Sherlock Holmes novel, and you start talking to the person that's reading the novel, and then you go back into the novel and you try to tell Sherlock Holmes how there's an entirely different dimension outside of this book, but you can't, because it's not, your character's not written that way, and Sherlock Holmes can't understand it because he's not written that way, and yet you keep going along your life in this character of this book, and there's always this thing that you can't express. It's
it's just a mystery. It's a mystery. But in this story of a separate character that suffers thoughts, suffers thinking, suffers the mind, etc., etc., it can be, this that we're talking about can be realized. And it seems like when it is realized, that it seems like, apparently, that there's less suffering and more joy of living.
Yes.
And
I'm sorry, go ahead, please.
I don't know if you've heard of Paul Hederman, but he likes to use the term traveling lighter. And yes, there is a traveling lighter. There is. Whether it's part of the story or the illusion or not, who cares?
Yeah, and that's beautiful, because I agree, in that we appear to be having this conversation. We appear to be in this Q&A. We appear to be these separate minds, right? What have you? Okay, and within that parameter of the dream, okay, there are different people that appear in subjective times and subjective points in time and space with their own histories and blah 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 blah. Well, yes, strictly speaking, I'm not helping someone become aware of something, right? It's the story of me helping somebody become aware of something. But I like that story. I like the story of talking to Alex and having Alex explain to me these beautiful things that truly are amazing. And so, instead of saying, like, for example, okay, it's not you. It's like, well, I was thinking the other day within this parameter. No, it's not you. You don't exist. So within this context of a Q&A, yeah, we kind of do, like the unicorn. We kind of do. So within that parameter, helping people and becoming aware of this direct experience can be played with. We can have these conversations, and it's, there is a conceptual self that if you say within this context, you don't exist, Alex, you don't exist. And Alex can say, well, wait a minute, though, within the context of this here and now in this conversation, I do. And everything that has happened in my conceptual life to this point as a concept and subjectively, it does exist as much as that unicorn, or as what you say is beyond experience. So
or what I said before, if your definition of existence is to stand out, existere, to stand out, yes. A Howard seems to stand out in this experience. Right. And so from that point of view, there is an existence in the sense that it stands out. What we're saying is that this that stands out is not what it seems to be. Right. It's not a separate inherent entity that has discrete awareness and consciousness.
Right.
That's all we're saying.
And there's nothing that, and for me, the you know, we could shut the conversation down really quick and say, well, there is no you, there is no you, there is no you, there is no you. Well, the thing is that, yeah, but we're having a conversation.
That's nihilism. Well, nihilism. I mean,
well, you know, yeah, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
You see, there's no. For instance, if I go and watch a movie, and I sit in the front row in a cinema,
right,
and the show starts, I don't need to tell everybody around me, you do know that Brad Pitt there on the screen doesn't exist. You do know that.
Right.
I don't need to do that. Right. I think everybody knows that it's an illusion. Brad Pitt on the screen is not real. I mean,
he's not Achilles.
Half the time, no, half the time he's missing half his body. Sometimes he appears with a 6 foot long head. Wait a minute. Right. He had a small head a minute ago, and now he's got a huge head. It can't be real. It can't be happening. Well, yes, we know that. We know that. Now, the problem is that the mind doesn't see that, doesn't apply that understanding to the me, the separate me that does exist. Oh, yes, I know that I exist, and of course I exist. Of course I have free will. Of course I was born, and of course I'm going to die, blah, 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 blah. Well, that's just the mind doing its trick, you see? And it seems harder to catch. You know, apparently, most people, apparent people, are in that delusion.
Well, and therein lies what I was alluding to, that there's the context of the teachings, say Tony Parsons or Newman or Andres Mueller, who I really love, and am interviewing next week, which is amazing to me.
Good.
Yeah, I love it. He's just a great guy. Anyways, I love his style, but it's completely different from my own in that where Andreas is saying, you know, as far as I could tell, to anybody that would ask a question, well, there's no you asking a question. There's no you, you know. So from the get-go, you know, just having a question is, you know, it's not happening. So, you know, to my, there is a place for that, for somebody that will get that and say, oh, there is no mind, there is no question, there is no answer, because I'm not thinking, or however you want to say it. For me, and I think for you, it seems to me that what we're talking about is, you know, you got your bigger mind that's just kind of, this whole thing just kind of is happening with no cause or effect or anything like that. And within that story are these conceptual selves that have little Q&As and Zoom meetings. And within that, we can explore these subtle nuances of the illusion of self and get in depth with it. Whereas I think within the Q&A form of Newman's and Andreas's and Tony Parsons, it's just beautiful and you know, just as valid or invalid. In that you know, there are some people that are going to get that, you know, or understand it in that simplicity of there is no you asking a question. You know, a lot of people would say, well, why are you having a Q&A? And the answer is, the answer would be, I'm not, you know, it's just happening. And then you can go from there to your own devices and just kind of go, okay, there's no me asking a question, there is no Q&A, there is the story of this. And so whereas I'm getting at is we can be a little more nuanced.
I think exactly. I think we need to put, if we're doing it for a purpose of teaching, an apparent teaching, although I love the way they say, oh no, this is a
there's no teaching.
Come on. Oh, come on.
There's no message. There's no message. There's no teaching. But it's true.
That's semantics. Yes, it's true, but it's not true. It's semantics. I mean, if you say, if a communication, I mean, come on. In normal language, communication happens between two entities, okay?
Right.
Whether it's true or not,
right,
there's an assumption that it's happening. between two entities. The same way that a teaching, a communication, a message. I'm not going there. All I'm saying is that I think that definitions have to be sharper. Okay, there's not a you as a real, separate, inherent entity with free will that exists separate from anything else. But the illusion of a you, well, there is an illusion. The same way that if I say a rainbow, if I go look for a rainbow and I want to touch it physically, no, it's not there. But that doesn't deny the illusion of a rainbow. Come on.
Right.
The sky is blue. We know it's not really blue. We know it's a reflection of the sun, the light, blah, 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 blah. Okay?
Right.
But the illusion is it's a blue sky. Come on.
For me,
we don't have to negate the illusion.
Right. See, this is beautiful. That's exactly what I'm saying. To negate the conceptual self in the context of a Q&A, okay, is to negate something in order to complete something that is already whole. So to say that you don't exist is incorrect, strictly speaking. To say hold a Q&A, and then to have the concept, and then to say that you don't have a question, okay, yes, it is, and it is not true. But at the same time, okay, so now what I like to call this is the sadomasochistic speaker-seeker kind of thing, where you just constantly, as a seeker, I looked at this for 5 minutes. I was like, I'm out of here. I mean, there's no way. I'm not going to ask somebody a question that has a Q&A, and then anytime somebody asks us a question, it just says, well, there's no you, and that's where you're wrong. And it's like, okay, I get that, and right away, I don't need to be here. So I would like to expand on the fact that, yes, there is no teaching. Yes, there is no message. Yes, I'm not thinking. Yes, you're not an individual. I'm not separate from you. I understand all of that. But within the context of this Q&A, as these subjective individuals in time and space, we exist and have this conversation. That is language. That is language. It's the subjective renditions of a feeble attempt to try to explain each other's reality when we don't have one objectively our own self. So it's not, I'm trying to explain my subjective reality to another individual who is like-mindedly subjective and knows it. And so we can have these conversations within this parameter of the dream within a dream and get somewhere theoretically within the parameters of that idea of a will and a freedom and a thought and an individual. See, if we're gonna do it, let's do it. Don't have a Q&A and then tell me I'm not.
I mean, if there's imagination.
Yeah.
Well, so be it.
There is and there isn't. Yeah.
But what I find a bit frustrating, and I think I think they could do with a bit more finesse and a bit more sort of sharper pointers, because not all minds, individual minds, have the very same level of understanding, and it can be hugely frustrating to hear, for instance, Tony Parsons or Jim Newman giving a non-dual message. Let's for the sake of his words.
Right. Let's just sloppy language aside, right?
It can be extremely frustrating for that mind, because it puts you in a box. It doesn't give you any other way of understanding. Oh no, there's no you. There's no you. There's no you. Wait a minute.
You're not thinking.
Before you can negate something, you need to have a concept. You cannot negate a non-concept. You can only negate concepts. So the concept is there before you can negate it, right?
Yes.
So first there's a concept, and then you can negate it. You can't negate without the concept. Now, once you have the concept is an experience. It's just not what it looks like.
Yes.
And that is pure logic. It's straightforward.
Well, the thing, what I I think about Tony Parsons doing this for like 30, 40, 50 years, how long he's been doing it,
Yeah.
right? And it's a bit of an express line attitude, a feeling for me. Newman,
Yeah.
Andreas as well, but not so much, I'm not saying this is a negative. I'm saying this as just the way it is. It's an express line of, you're getting these people in and out of here. They come in, they're asking the same questions. Answer A goes to question B, and you can do it real fast. There's a real quick playbook there, and you can just get people in and out of there. And there's just this procession of of sadomasochism is all I can say. It's you're never going to get a different answer. Okay, so to keep going back and asking the same questions, it seems to me, within this context is something. And what I've noticed is anytime things get kind of sticky, and somebody says, well, now hang on, they don't want to spend a whole lot of time with that individual. You know what I mean? They just kind of cut them off and scrub them. And so that message is always there. Individually speaking, Jim Newman is beautiful. Parsons is beautiful. Andreas is beautiful. When they're sitting there talking from their own point of view, paradoxically speaking, and there's no Q&A. I could do that all day. I think they're beautiful. Yeah. But within that context of how that Q&A is run of just this, to me, I would be lying if I didn't say I have no interest in that. I mean, I have no interest in telling someone, no, you don't think next, next.
Well, I mean, in the story of Alex, I've seen literally hundreds of hours of Tony Parsons, Newman, and I mean, I've seen them all. Rupert Spara. I can't tell you how many thousands of YouTube hours I've seen. Okay, thousands. Now, it's a double-edged sword, non-duality, because in the end, all you can think about is non-duality as concept, and that is not what's being pointed at. that's a paradox. You get you have the perfect answers, non-dual answers. You have perfect knowledge, intellectual knowledge about non-duality, what it means and what it doesn't mean. I mean, we could spend another 5 hours talking about non-duality, and all we're doing is tossing around non-dual concepts. Right. And you can be brilliant at non-duality and still not realize that you are not your thoughts.
and from that context, I can understand where they're coming from, where those speakers are coming from within that Q&A, because it's never, we could sit here for 5 hours and talk about it and you still won't get it. And you're talking to a seeker, you still won't get it. And, I will have wasted 5 hours. You will still have the same questions. And, all these other people will want to talk to me, and I couldn't talk to them. So I just tell you straight up, and they themselves are not choosing to do this. So it's this thing where they're saying straight up, this is what it is. You're not thinking, there is no you. And, and all of that, you're already wrong. And instead of trying to explain any kind of subtle nuance about that to any of the individuals, I see most of the time they just, they're just like, no, next, and I can see why, I could see that, there are people that love it, and, and it's true. What they're saying is accurate. It's not like it's a lie, I mean, but, for me, within the context of a Q&A, if somebody asks me a question, I think I could, I don't think that I want to do, it's just this. You're not thinking, you don't exist.
Yeah. Well,
Go away.
I mean, yeah. Well, the teacher isn't decided to teach, and the student isn't decided to go to a satsang, or it's just happening.
Right.
That is what's so difficult to get your head around. But we have so many examples that this is just happening, and that thought comes a split second later to say, I did this. This is my decision. I'm the one that's choosing. But it's always after the fact, after the actual fact. I walked down the street. No, you didn't walk down the street. Did you actually give instructions to your legs first?
Or
take one step, another.
Exactly. I came to a Q&A. Right.
Yes. Yeah. Or I'm looking at you. Wait a minute. What's this I that claims to see, to have a sense of seeing? What is it? Can it be found other than a concept? Other than a concept, an idea, a story? Do stories see? Do concepts see? Do thoughts see? Because that's what you're saying. Unless you can find a real, inherent, separate I somewhere,
which nobody has found. An objective point in time and space.
Yeah.
You need an objective point in time and space in order for anything to be accurate or true.
Yeah. Yeah. It just seems to be happening. I sometimes teach. I give lessons, and I roughly, when I have a session, I do it on Skype. I roughly say the same stuff every time, okay? And it just comes out of my mouth. It just pops up. There's no real thinking. There's no real process of thinking what I'm going to say. It just comes up instantaneously. It pops up. I mean, talking is verbal thinking, basically. You talk, and it originates instantaneously. No previous thinking. I'm going to think what I'm going to think before I can say it. Wait a minute, that's not happening. It just comes up. Right. This conversation we're having now, are you actually thinking before you speak? No, it's just happening. That's the best example.
Yeah, you got to wonder if anything.
If you want proof of something happening, this conversation, it's just happening. I haven't a clue what my next thought or what the next word out of my mouth is going to be. No clue at all.
Right.
Because the I that says I haven't a clue doesn't even exist.
Right.
Except as a thought, and it can appear or not appear.
Okay. Now here's something. Now the I that has the thought doesn't even exist, right? So, but there is a self that appears to think within the appearance of this here and now. Okay.
But when you say there's the self, in which way does it manifest?
Well, it doesn't. It does, and it doesn't. It manifests in the dream of no.
But does it manifest as a body, as an energy, as the idea of a soul? How does it manifest? If you say it exists, the self,
right?
In which way does it manifest?
In the same way that a unicorn exists in my dream.
Okay.
Yeah. In the same way that, right. So in the same way that a dream, but only it's even different than that because there's no cause or effect for this.
Yeah.
Whereas
as a thought construct.
And then for me to think that there's a cause and effect for the unicorn would be to think that I actually am conscious. So really, there is no difference between me and the unicorn. And so what you have is you have this inability. There's no way to describe manifestation really, because there's no non-manifest. I mean, there's nothing that's not manifested. It's not even a manifestation because that would suggest a happening. So it's
yes, well, exactly. There's no manifestation occurring to a separate entity.
Right. Right.
The separate,
Yes.
it's all self-contained in one single manifestation. There's no separation there. That's why I find it it resonates more to say that it's not that you don't exist.
Mm-hmm.
It's that there isn't separation.
Yeah. And you don't exist as you appear separate. Yeah.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's a recognition of your face. Whenever I see that face, I'm going to say, oh, that's Howard. Okay. Now, I cannot say, oh, no, this image that's appearing is not happening. Yes, the image is happening, but it's not happening separate from everything else, separate from thinking, tasting, touching, smelling, the room, the table, the mirror, etc., etc. It's all happening in one single experiencing. It's not a sum of experiences. Only the mind would call it a sum of experiences. It is experiencing as a unity. And from that point of view, it's valid to say that there appears to be the face of Howard appearing. All I'm saying is that I'm not going to negate the appearance of Howard's face. Right. All I'm going to say, it's not separate from this singularity, from this single experiencing.
Right.
That's all.
Right. So we do and we don't exist. We do exist as appearances of subjective points in time and space, but we don't exist as we appear, conscious and separate.
As the mind believes it exists. Yeah.
Right. As the self would think that they exist and experience. That is illusionary.
Not even the self.
Right.
Not even the
so
self.
As
the mind says. The mind says, what's happening right now is that Alex, a separate entity living inside his flesh body, mm-hmm. has consciousness and is aware of this world and mm-hmm. things going on externally in the outer world. That is what the mind is. That's the story of the mind.
Right.
And that story hasn't been put up to investigation, to a proper understanding or proper test. It's just make believe.
Yes. So what I'm saying is we do and we don't exist within the context of this Q&A or in the world of separation. We appear to exist, but we don't exist as we appear. And therefore I think there for me it gives a little leeway into somebody that's asking a question and somebody that's giving an answer. You can play with that a little bit because we do appear to exist and we are having a Q&A and we can kind of go into a subtle nuance as to why you are subjective, as to why existence is subjective, as to why there is no cause or effect in an objectively true sense. And we can explore that. That is my, that is my paradoxical wish, to be able to explore these things with people in that dream separation.
Yes, I would just, and it's still language and words, but I would say that we exist conceptually mm-hmm. in the realm of mind. Yet that conceptual existence in the realm of mind is not
existence.
The beingness, the essential beingness or existence.
Yes.
In the same way that the recipe of chicken soup is description and it's conceptual, but does not give you the direct experience of chicken soup.
So is there So this is the beautiful aspect of it. As conceptual dreams, that the mind is, okay, that the self is in this kind of dual, non-dual, paradox of experience. You are let me, because this is the big, I think this is the one thing that that's huge in what you're saying, and the difference in what you're saying, or not difference, the interesting thing in what you're saying as opposed to what many say in speakers, is that there is something other than immediate experience, and the self goes there. You as a dream have hope, or have some kind of other frame of reference or frame of existence, other than things in separation. You have,
Yeah.
you were explaining something going beyond mind. The self goes beyond mind and beyond separation. So that is huge. I think the biggest thing that we've touched on so far, and that's an amazing. Can you expand on that? That to me,
yes,
is
well,
the big one.
I'll give you a description of what happened, which is not the direct experience. Take that in mind. No pun intended. The experience, and remember, this is a story of something that happened, that indirect experience.
Okay.
The experience was that there was an absence of any thought process, any conceptual energy, or call it as you want. No thinking happening. No seeing, tasting, touching, smelling happening. No sense of space and time, matter. No subjectivity and no objectivity. Or you could call it pure subjectivity. Okay? In which case you don't even need the term. Why use the word pure subjectivity if that's all there is?
Yeah.
You know what I'm getting at, right?
Yeah. Yes.
Yet it wasn't an absence into a void, a nothingness. There was a knowing that I was still there. And that I that I'm referring to is not the ego conceptual I. That was that was demolished,
gone.
in the experience.
Right, that's gone. Yeah.
As a matter of fact, when I came out of that experience, so okay, ego then takes ownership of that direct experience. But anyway, the first sentence that came out of my mouth was, I'm God. I'm actually God. I know about your thoughts of God, okay? But I thought, that must be God, and I must be God, okay? Now, who says that? The mind. The mind tries to make sense of what's happened. And then for about a year or so, I would tell this story as a story that happened to a separate entity called Alex. I would tell the story to anyone that would want to listen to me. I must tell you this that happened to me. It's incredible what happened to me. I took 5-MeO-DMT and DMT. I can't tell you where I went. I lost my body. I lost my mind. I lost this. I lost my senses. And I went to heaven. And I realized I was God. And this long story for a whole year.
Well, I can totally relate to it too. I just want to interject really quick. I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
Until there was a realization that the mind, the storyteller, had taken ownership of that direct experience and was saying, guess what? This happened to me. And so the ego,
right,
or the reboots, there's a reboot, and the ego comes back with a vengeance. The ego comes back and says, guess what happened to me?
Right. Well, okay. But see, so that kind of has, if I may, that kind of has to do with coming back from that experience and being back in the book, trying to explain to other characters in the book, what happened there, and being totally hogtied. I'm not actually doing anything. I can't. There's no words. There's no way to do it. So, but you come back into the book and you just get back into character, and it just seems like these little, and I don't know about you, but I have brushes with that. It's a reoccurring thing. The shift never stops. People say the shift doesn't really happen, but yeah, it never stops either.
It doesn't stop happening.
It never stops happening. So we can play with that game all day.
It's like a constant trefoil. Yeah, I mean, I remember. I remember there was this seminar. I think it was Newman, yeah. And there was this guy that attended his message. and
you should have seen your face.
and the guy said, "I have taken 5-MeO DMT."
Holy mother!
And the guy was trying to explain the experience with 5-MeO DMT.
Yeah.
And I remember Newman got extremely pissed off. Oh, that's rubbish. You're clinging to an experience that is not important. That never happened. Blah 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 blah. Okay. And he said, no, but you don't understand. What I'm trying to tell you is, no, don't continue with the story of your 5-MeO DMT. I'm not interested. And he said, no, but I want to explain. And he said, no, I'm not going to listen to it. And he got really pissed off, Jim Newman, really pissed off. And so the poor guy there was really frustrated, not being able to say what had happened. Now, a similar experience happened to Roger Castillo. I don't know if you've heard of him, Roger Castillo. He is a devotee or a disciple of Ramesh Balsekar, so the story says. And he had another experience, existential, spiritual, whatever you want to call it, experience. And he was trying to explain, Ramesh, look, you're not understanding. I've had this sort of epiphany, this sort of mystical experience, and it's important that I tell you this experience, because I really must tell you. And Ramesh kept on saying, look, it was just an experience. I'm not interested. No, but you need to listen to me because this is very special. No, I'm not interested. It was just an experience. And he said, no, but you're not understanding. No,
you're not understanding.
This was, and he said, actually, this was just another experience. It may be a very profound, mystical, may seem special. It was just another experience. It's only seems special to the separate character, to the ego, to the me, right? But basically, all there is in the mind is this experiencing, or maybe I shouldn't say in the mind, but it's just another flavor, another experience, like going on a roller coaster, or like going skydiving, or it's just another experience.
Yes.
The fact that we feel that it's special, or to whom is it special? Oh, it's special to the mind, it's special to the ego, it's special to the, but it's not actually. It's not.
Can I tell it? Just this is right along that line, or I'll wait until you're done. I'm sorry.
No, I'm finished.
Okay. Yeah. I was just this kid, and I had already had my shift when I was 8. I'm just gonna be drunk with language. I'm just gonna talk plainly as possible. Had my shift when I was 8. I'm about 10 years old, and I go surfing. I used to surf every day at sunup. My favorite break. I'd be by myself and take the first bus, and I was obsessed with surfing, and I loved it so much. Just the analogy, just the way I viewed the ocean. It was. I realized I did not see the ocean the way a lot of people saw it. I would. Only few people could understand what I meant when it's like Eskimos and snow. When you're talking to a surfer and, you talk about waves, there's a million different words for waves. There's a million different ways to say that. So there are very few people that can understand when they say how they break, and you go into this long diatribe. And anyways, only very few people can recognize that. And So I was in that level. I was getting to that level on my local break with the old guys and all that. And here's the storm day. It's the biggest day that I've ever seen. It's massive. It's everything that I had been trading for. So I get it. I risked my life getting out there. It was close. It was brutal. But you get to that, place of no return, and it's the story, this epic story of a kid going beyond his possibly his abilities and barely getting by. And I set up and I drop in on this wave, and I'm totally cutting 90% of the story out, but I drop in, the thing pitches over me, and everything stops, right? And it's that same fairy tale story. You hear a lot of different people in a lot of different ways, but everything stopped, and literally stopped. And I'm looking around, and it just occurred to me that this is every moment. This is every moment. This is not special. Okay. Is that like this happening or experience where literally separation stops? There is no separation. There is no time, and all of that. And it just, I feel this like echoing into the infinite, exponentially in every direction. And all of that experience, right? As it occurred to me as I was paddling back out, that's every moment. That infinite is every mundane situation. And it's just another experience in that, me having a shift, you having these things with Nazagarata or whatever his name is, or whatever experience you're talking about with him. And what his point being that no, it's truly not special. That direct experience of you going to a place where there's no you and no separation, that may seem like, oh, that happened in a linear time, in this linear expression of time and space. I left time and space.
Yes, it's special to the mind. It's special to the mind because it's new to the mind.
Right. So, but that is always there.
But it's not special because it's always there.
It's always there because, and that's what I mean. Within, like, the shift never stops, and there are times, and I don't know about you, but for me, it seems insane to say that no, I had that one experience and it never happened again. No. It happens all the time, and there's just, you don't see separation. You lose that, and there's not a mechanism for it. There's not a, but, and it might be a story in of the mind or whatever, but within that conceptual here and now and our subjective reality, see, that's the beautiful thing in this understanding of, as you were saying, this other than this and here and now, this whatever it is you want to say it is. It never ends, and I mean, it's not separate in that you leave here and go there. This is a thing, and we go to no, not even nothing. It doesn't work that way. It simply does not operate in any kind of capacity of a mechanism. There's no cause and effect answer for what. And I lost what I said, what I wanted to say as I was saying it. And I do that all the time, and it's real. It's so weird because I'll have a point, and you get right up on it, and it just evaporates in front of you. It just evaporates. And
yes, because and it creates the illusion of someone that lost it, which is
exactly. Right. Well, but see, we're assuming that illusion within the contents, within the context of points in time and space, having a Q&A. We have to assume that. So within,
I mean, it's I don't know if you've noticed it. The shoulds and shouldn'ts of the mind, like when they say, "Oh, but I thought you were spiritual." but you're voting right wing. How can you vote right wing and you drink and actually you smoke? Wait a minute, weren't you supposed to be spiritual? And that wasn't very kind of you to say that about that person. Weren't you spiritual? And now what can happen is that the personality traits are there. It's conditioning. That's not going to change. So the realization that of the dreaming or of what we're talking about doesn't have anything to do with your personal conditioning, what we call personal conditioning. So you can, that's why, I mean, in the case of Osho, you know, people say, Osho, he was a fake, you know, he had gold Rolexes and Rolls Royces and blah, blah, blah. No, doesn't dismiss that there could have been a profound realization, you know, an understanding of the character. But what has that got to do with being, you know, wanting to wear a Rolex? It has nothing to do. There is still a conditioning, which is what makes the personality. The fact that there's a personality doesn't mean to say that there's a separate individual entity. That's what people sometimes they can't grasp. You know, you are what you are. There is a conditioning there, right? And you're operating under that conditioning.
Yeah, I know a guy that talks about this stuff all the time, and he talks to people all the time. People just constantly, he's constantly doing it. You know, and all the rigmarole that goes along with that. But he won't charge anything for anyone ever. And because you know it's one of those it's just he can't do it, and he says you know that it would make it, he would sell him, you know, paradoxically sell himself out, and he said if I charge money, then you know I'm gone, I'm lost. But yet he lives at his parents' house, and you know, it like I mean, it's a drain on his parents. You know, it's like you know, you have no other skill, you know, and yet you know, and so, but you don't want, you know, you don't want to inhibit on any other person for this holy thing. Yet you're living at your parents' house, and so and then the thing is that you work all day and night doing these things, and you won't take money. But you know, so the paradox there being, you know, I don't know what I'm saying. I mean, like Osho, as far as I'm concerned, I think Osho just realized that people want, they want someone to go there for them, and I can be that conduit. I can talk that game and give them what they want, and they will give me everything that they have, as long as I tell them, follow me and I'll get you there. And that is what that's about. Tony Parsons is somebody that was at Osho's compound for years. And for me, I think that's, you know, that's fascinating on a lot of levels. But it is that mentality of, whereas we're now, I think Parsons has gone the other way with it. You know, he's not going to. He's saying there is no me to get and no you, and there's nowhere to go, and all of this kind of thing. You know, and he's cut out a lot of that stuff, and people love it, and they go there, you know, for years and never get it, you know, never understand it, but keep coming back. And you know, Tony, I was wanting to know. Well, there's no you. No, you weren't. You know, well, I was thinking, no, you weren't. You know, I wanted to. No, you didn't. You know, and it's just like, you know, I mean, how long do you need to hear that? I just, but in any case, I think Osho, in that respect, decided to just give people what they wanted within, you know, and you know, he realized that that it's easier. I mean, it's way easier to allow someone else to tell you about these things than it is to actually, you know, well, paradoxically, you can't get there. So it either happens for you or it doesn't. I heard David Baum and what is it, JK talking about Osho once, and I thought that it was interesting. But I don't blame any guru types for doing what they do. So I mean, Osho, for all I know, may have actually believed what he said. I don't know.
Well, you can't. If you blame them, then you're attributing free will.
Right. Please go ahead, sir. I'm sorry.
I mean, if you blame them, then you've already fallen into the trap of free will.
Right.
They just do what they're conditioned to do, and that's it. That's the output we get, and that's it.
Yeah.
You see, and I must be finishing off because I need to.
What, 3 hours and you're done? Yeah. You're lightweight.
But, whether this is a material reality with space and time, or whether it's an idealistic reality or idealism, or whether it's just a hallucination or imagination, it is what it is. It's not going to change. Gravity is still going to work. We're still going to go to sleep and have dreams and wake up, and we still need to eat and apparently need to work and so on. So although it's great fun talking about this, we need to make it a bit more practical. If we're going to give it any importance to this, again, it may seem very sort of dualistic, what I'm going to say, but unless this serves some sort of purpose of alleviating perhaps a restless mind or some sort of mental suffering or so on, it's just empty speech. There's not really much to it. We can sort of elaborate on this for years and centuries, and we're not going anywhere. So, and again, if people didn't have restless minds, if people were basically happy and in peace, who cares what non-duality is? Who cares what existence and reality is? I don't see the importance there.
Well, for me, it's the same thing. Like me cutting on Osho or the seekers that like Osho or something like that. It's the same as people that cut on me for thinking too much. And I say, well, the thing is that I'm not thinking. To say that I think too much is to indicate that you think that thought actually occurs with an individual, and that's not what's happening. So for me, it's the same thing. So what I was interested with you, I'm doing to them what people do to me. So there is no objective, true or false to any of this. It's, I am not criticizing anything at all. I love all those guys, and I love everything. I love Osho people, whatever. What I was interested in before I lose you today is, maybe for the next time, if you wanted to talk about it, is this concept of God that you brought up. And I know you have your own.
You've just said it. It's a concept.
Well, is that what you're saying?
Remember, you see, we've spent quite a long time talking about there's no need to negate a concept.
Right.
And that's what I was trying to get at when we talked about God a few months ago. Right? There isn't that. The concept in and of itself, you can negate it or not negate it. It's a concept.
It's its own reality. As a concept, it's its own reality.
It's an idea, like a me is an idea.
Yes, okay. Yes.
And a pink unicorn is an idea.
Yes.
And the Brad Pitt on the TV screen is a concept. It's an idea. It's not inherently real or separate.
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I was saying, and this might be semantics again, that the description many have given of a God is omniscient, omnipotent, and what was the other one? I always forget.
Yeah, I know. It's just
Omniscient,
omnipotent,
omnipresent, and omnipresent.
omnipresent. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, strangely enough, those are the same definitions that can be given to awareness. It's always present, it's everywhere, and it's omnipotent, because whatever can happen, the potentiality to happen has to happen there in awareness. Okay? So from that point of view, and again, the word awareness is a concept, that what it points at is not a concept. So from that point of view, there's not much difference if you talk about God or if you talk about awareness. It's just another label.
Okay.
Now some people might say, no, but God is actually this white beard man, old beard man living up in the sky. Oh, well, that's different. That is a different idea of a God, right?
Are you saying that there is a God?
I'm saying no. You see, the moment you say there is a God, then you're using words to describe it, and description is not what is being pointed at. For instance,
Okay.
if I say, are you saying there's awareness? Would you say there's awareness or there isn't awareness?
Well, no. Strictly speaking, no. There is and there isn't.
If you say, the moment you describe it, the description is not the described.
It's not what it is. Yeah.
It's not what it is.
Right.
So the moment I say, oh, there's awareness and it's this, and I tell a story about it, wait a minute, you're giving a description. Description is not the described. Okay, that's not the same.
Yeah.
Right. I don't want. So the only thing, there can be a direct experience,
that is unexplainable,
which is unexplainable, and that direct experience is not the same than the description you make of it. Like, I mean, if I said to you, do orgasms exist? Well, if you've had one and you know the experience, you say yes. Can you tell me what it is? Yes, I can tell you what it is, but I can't make you have the experience. What do you want? Do you want the description or do you want the direct experience? Oh, no, I want the description. Okay, there goes the description. I'll give you a description. Oh, no, I want the direct experience. Sorry, I can't give you the direct experience. You're not going to have it from me.
Are you saying that you are equating that which cannot be said and God? Are you putting the God tag on that which what cannot be said?
You see, if I use the term God, you've already added.
Yeah, what does it mean?
A whole lot of stuff to the label.
Right.
You see, what I'm saying is, and it's what I'm always repeating, is that the terms used for awareness, which is always present, which is everywhere, okay, and it's omnipotent in the sense that anything that can happen has to happen in awareness. It can't happen out of awareness, otherwise it can't be talked about. It has to happen in awareness.
Right.
That is not that far from the description many people give of God.
Right. So the description is also God too.
Yes. So what I'm saying is that when people talk about God, about a feeling of connection with God and blah, 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 they're not necessarily talking about a human form up in the skies. They might actually be referring to this sense of knowing, of awareness. That's what I'm saying.
This unexplainable.
I'm speculating, okay?
Yeah.
And so when this experience happened of no thought, space, time, blah, 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 this experience of the 5 MEO, when I came out of the experience, which there was nobody that came out, but where I'm getting at. When
yes.
there was a mind active again, being able to give a description, the mind immediately said, "Oh, I must be God." and I've been an atheist. This, there's always, I've never believed in God. I've always been an atheist. And the first remark, the first comment I made when I was able to utter a word was, shit, I've been God all along, without even believing in a God. And, but only because there was this sense of all knowing, all being, expansive, without separation, this, in that experience.
And if I can expand on what you're saying, this is how I'm interpreting this. What you are saying God is the same thing that awareness is, in that even the question is God.
Yes,
question,
in a way, yes. In a way, yes.
So the not knowing is God. And so what I'm saying is, as a subjective individual, and all that rolls along with that, blah, 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 blah. Okay, we have this God that is indefinable. You can define it if you like, but it's concept. But you're saying it's that God is synonymous with that which cannot be said.
Yeah, I could say that.
Okay. So,
but in the sense that most people would say, because they believe in separation and duality, they would say there's me, this separate human entity, body, mind, living on planet Earth, and then there's God somewhere else overlooking what I do, and a separate entity from me. That is the normal idea of a God.
Yes.
Right. But mostly in Western countries, but if you go to Eastern cultures, okay, there's an all-expansive God where God is everything. Basically, God is everything and nothing at the same time. Everything and nothing. That is a different idea of God. And everything and nothing, no thing, should I say,
right,
can be experienced. It's part of the experiencing. It can be part of the experiencing. It can be.
And right. And what I'm saying is that God, as everything and nothing, or as that which cannot be explained, okay, is likewise not anchored. It's not objectively true, in that God is neither true nor false, in that what is neither true nor false. It's neither is nor it isn't.
Yes, but the moment you say objectively, using that word,
right,
there's an assumption that there's already duality.
There's no reality. I mean, well, there's no reality in which. So the sense that like for Western civilization, people think that there's me, and I'm made in God's image, and when I do good things and stuff like that, I will go to heaven, something like that. Okay, that is overly simplified, but yes, there's a risk reward kind of thing there, and and that is reality. God created, say, the universe 5,000, 6,000 years ago.
Yeah, and, well, that's what they say reality is.
Right, and that is real. God's justice. God can't be wrong, because he is the ultimate justice. What he says goes. It has nothing to do with right or wrong. It just is what it is. And similarly, what cannot be spoken is likewise unconditional. So what I'm saying, the difference may be in what you're saying, or what the Eastern philosophies maybe say, is that
Mhm.
God doesn't hold and any kind of objective reality, because that's not
No.
what
Yeah.
is. Objective
Yeah.
reality is the illusion of separation. So
Yeah.
what God is being that unexplainable, is what you're
Mm.
saying, is that there is no tether to some kind of other, because he or it or whatever the unexplainable is already complete, already whole, and yet appearing as separate.
You know,
It's
just, just yeah, yeah, in a way, yes. But just to make a quick joke, with that background, those trees and that sky,
yeah, right.
and your head is coming in and out of the image. If you had a white beard, I might call you God because
Well,
you're coming in and out of that sky like an
you know,
appearance that you could be God.
well, we were talking about the programs before, and even dreams. The unicorn to pop out of the dream and come into this dream, or us getting rags or whatever. The same thing with like Mario Kart. If Mario could jump out of the screen and declare himself God, and then jump back in the screen, he would have just as much. He would have just as much.
Yeah.
It would be just as true as if I were to say, "I am God."
Yeah.
Right? Because there's no separation between the program and the TV. It's just different aspects of what we consider to be, realms of reality, or is not is. And so Mario could very well say, "I am God," and then jump back into the screen, and we could not tell him different within that context. And he would be, he would be right, because everything is God. Right.
Yes, but except that the story of Mario is a story of separation. It's a story of imagination, of being able to jump out of a boat and back in again.
And so I'm not
sure that. I'm not sure that. Yes, but yes and no in a different sense. I'm not sure that it's the exact analogy, the same analogy, because I'm not talking about whether there's separation or not, because that is again in the realm of mind. Discussing whether there's separation, no separation, whether it's conceptual or not conceptual, we're already in the mind in that discussion. In that discussion, we are already in the mind. It's not taking us anywhere because it's already the mind. I'm saying that there can be an experience of no mind at all, and no body and no senses. They call it in some places, I think they call it samadhi or nirvana samadhi, or I can't remember the term. And it's just awareness without object, without content, just awareness for the sake of awareness, right? And so when there's awareness of awareness and there's no mind, then there's a realization, an understanding, okay, that mind comes in and out of you. You are always there. Mind may be present or not. And this you cannot be described because it's not part of the mind. You can only describe what's in the mind. You can't describe anything out of the mind. It cannot be described.
Well, how about taking it from this point of view? I know you got to go. I'm sorry, but okay. Alan Watts said once, he goes, you watch somebody tripping on LSD and they're looking at an ashtray for 12 hours thinking, and they're saying, "This is God. This is God." If somebody will, scribble something on a piece of paper, it's completely nonsensical to anybody else, and they're saying, "This, look, it's God." And like myself, I could look at a bottle cap. I was talking about this yesterday with Kim. We could look at a bottle cap for hours and just be fascinated about it. Now, and in that, it just appears out of nothing. And so, what I'm saying is, Mario jumping out of the TV, declaring himself God, is no different than, because the reality is within that context of being.
Yes, within
everything is God.
No, not within the context. Not within the context of being. Within the context of mind.
Well, okay. So you're saying that there's a difference between mind and being.
Because yes, of course there is. Yes.
Okay. So now
for there to be mind, there has to be being first.
No. No. You are now saying that you are attributing. You are now attributing a realism to your mind. You're saying that there was a being first and then a mind. Is that what you're saying?
It depends. Again, it's semantics.
Well,
it's semantics.
Okay.
I'm saying that because the moment you say being, your mind latches on to the idea of, oh, I know what being is, and that can't be. Well, wait a minute. What's your definition of being? Let's start with that. I'm going to plug in the charger because I'm running out of battery. Tell me what your definition of being is first.
Okay, being is, as far as what I think you're saying, and as far as what I think.
Okay, wait a minute. As far as what you think I'm saying.
Okay. How about this? Okay. But look, we're taking into see what we're doing here is you're saying that there's some kind of greater mind, and you're calling that being. Okay, it's just being. You're saying that's the greater mind that creates the individual mind. Okay, and that individual mind thinks it thinks. Okay, it thinks it is separate from this other big mind. Okay, that is just the creation of everything, or just being. Okay, so being for me is not separate from the illusion of someone thinking. Being is the illusion of someone thinking.
Well, for me, being is synonymous for presence.
Okay.
The thing is that we believe that what is being,
but then
is a body or an animal, or that is what we believe.
So
is
we're
being.
never not presence. Yeah, but we're never not presence. Okay.
Yes, there's always presence. There's always presence.
So the mind is the illusion that you are separate from the presence, right?
Well, what I'm saying is I'm saying it's a case of misidentification. This presence is not generated by a body or by a person or by an ego or by a mind, and this presence I call being, for lack of a better word. It's just a label. It's just a label.
Right.
For there to be thought, there has to be something first.
So thought is a character, and
what
being
that something is. What that something is, I call it presence. Some people might call it existence. Some people might call it God. Some people might call it awareness or even consciousness. It's just a label, okay? But thought comes after the fact. You're there before thought comes, and you're there after thought goes. And that is before thought and after thought is what I call being or presence. You don't disappear when thought stops.
How do you know?
Because I know. It's purely subjective. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Well,
it's like I say, if I said I've had an orgasm and you don't know what an orgasm is, and you say, how do you know? Well, okay.
Well,
you could from your point of view, you can question, how do you know you've had an orgasm? Well,
I know what you're talking about.
I just know.
But see, here's the thing. To say that the mind is separate from being, okay, is to objectify the mind from a subjective position. You're saying that mind exists separate from being, okay, which means that you think that you are separate. You exist separate from presence.
No, it's not that. It's not separate from. What I'm saying, and this is, we can go as deep as we want into metaphysics or explanations and all that, but one way of saying it, and it's not my definition. It's I think it's Rupert Spira. I don't know if you've heard of him. It's, if you can imagine the program on the TV screen, the actual program is not separate from the screen.
Yes.
Right? It's not separate.
I don't know about that.
No, but wait a minute. I know it's a faulty analogy, but it's as close as it gets.
Okay.
Now, the image is not actually separate from the screen. It's a modulation. We could say it's a modulation of the screen.
Yes.
Okay. So the screen is creating the image, but the image relies on the screen, right? You don't have an image separate from the screen. So every time the image appears, it's not separate from the screen. But the image doesn't appear all the time. It's not there. It doesn't manifest. Thought doesn't manifest all the time. When it does manifest, it manifests together with the awareness of it. Okay? So it's never separate, but it doesn't always manifest. And you know that in direct experience.
Right. Well, everything would be that, yeah.
I don't have to tell you that because you know that. Right. Is thought always on in your direct experience? It is always thinking all the time. There isn't.
Well, see, there's no way to know that because, like
no
it's
way
paradox.
To know from a separate entity that believes it's a self.
Exactly.
But there is knowing of it.
Right. But see, it's
just not done by Howard.
Yeah. Okay. Well, now, okay.
That's the misidentification. There is knowing of it. There is knowing. There's thought. There's not thought. There's thought. There's not thought. There is knowing of it. The innocent. It's not Howard that knows that, and it's not the mind that knows that.
Okay. So is God the dreamer of the next direct experience? Is he like what we are here dreaming about unicorns? See, because now it's another dimension. It's like being able to take a ribbon from this dream and take it to direct experience land where there is no time or place or land or separation. So we cannot take an object there. We can't take ourselves or separation. But now, is that the other dimension? Are you saying that is God?
You see, the question is, Howard, that it seems to me that you're trying to put this into a box, into an understanding that makes sense, so that you can finally say, okay, I'll buy what Alex is saying, or no, I'll reject what Alex is saying. It seems like that.
Right.
You see? Now, what I'm saying is that any description, you're asking me for a comment, a description, an idea. Are you telling me this? Are you telling me that? Are you telling me so-and-so? Because you're trying to rationalize what I'm saying. And what I'm trying to say is that any description I might give you, you can tear it apart. You can break it into pieces from your logic. Of course you can, because the description is not the direct experience. That's all I can say.
And so the paradox of the idea of direct experience being separate from this, or God being separate from you, or you being God, as a subjective, you being the question is the answer, and all of that kind of stuff. You're essentially, because when you say God, it's just one of those things where what I'm understanding is that you are saying presence is God expressing individuals that think, and within that expression of the individuals that think,
apparent individuals that apparently think, yes.
Right.
Yes. If you want to say it that way, yeah.
Right. So,
Well,
you know,
it's a story. It's a story made up in mind, and it's a story. Yeah.
well, what I'm trying to agree with you here is, see, that's what I'm trying to show you the way I'm looking at it, in that God himself or herself or itself or whatever you want to say, God is presence. Okay. Um, within that understanding is that, okay, so God is not a foundation so much as an understanding of the unknowable. Because if we are the question, and the question is God, then really the unknowable is God. The unknowable, unexpressible, is God itself.
Well, let's put it this way. I'll ask you a question. In the absence of thought, right? Surely you know what the absence of thought is. When I say you, I'm not talking to Howard.
Well, see, that's the thing. I can't.
There's a knowing. Is there a knowing of the absence of thought? Is thought on all the time?
Yeah, we can say that.
Can we
like
say
that?
Yeah. Can we say there are gaps between one thought and the next, or is thought continuous on all the time?
It's continuous.
Would you say it's continuous, or would you say there are gaps?
Well, reality is a thought. So as long as you think you're in a reality, you're thinking, you're appearing to think, and therefore think.
Well, yes, because
reality and thought are synonymous.
Yeah, but I'll ask you another question. Have you ever done meditation?
Yeah. Well, yes and no.
Well, when meditation is done, because there's not a Howard that does it, but meditation happens. Let's put it that way. There's a quietening of the mind, meaning a quieting or relaxation of that conceptual energy, discursive, the imagining in the head. You can listen, you can hear sounds without using your ears. You can see images without using your eyes. You can hear what we call our thoughts, which are not our thoughts, but we can hear voices in the head. All that phenomena that seems to be happening in the head. When people say, "Oh, I've got all this stuff in my head," you know what I'm talking about, right? So that thought, that thinking, that can slowly quieten, and it quietens and it quietens, and the gaps between that conceptual energy or thought, the gaps get larger and larger and larger and larger and larger. And there's a knowing of that. There's a knowing that the gaps are getting longer than the actual thoughts, because normally we have long thoughts, short gaps, but sometimes you can have long gaps, short thoughts. And there's a point where all there is this silence of mind, silence of thought. And in that silence, there is no duality. There is no duality. You need thought for duality to occur.
Right.
You cannot have duality without thoughts.
Right. And so there's no way. Right. And so there's the paradoxical, that I can't know, because
You see what believe happens is that, sometimes a silence or a gap happens in my experience. That's what we believe happens. No, actually, it's the other way around. There's an underlying silence, right, which is clouded by thoughts. It's like saying, sometimes I see the sun behind the clouds. No, actually, the sun is always there. It's the clouds that are blocking the sun.
But see, this is where it gets fun for me, because see, this that's not separate. I mean, that's this to say that you can experience silence or thought, is an illusion of separation.
I don't say no. I don't say I experience silence.
Okay.
I say
So
there's
silence.
I say there's experiencing
Right.
of silence.
So you don't really, it's not that you stop thinking, right? Because, like, to say that I can stop thinking, or when I am being noisy, listening to music and having fun, that's somehow not God.
No, there's no you to stop thinking, because thinking is not done by a you.
Right. So
The
silence.
you is part of the thinking.
Okay. So
You
when
is sort of.
right. So when you drop the illusion that you are thinking, okay, then
when the illusion is dropped, you don't drop it.
Right. So when the illusion is dropped and there is no you, and there is no, and you're saying that there's a silence, and that silence is presence or God or whatever.
There's an understanding that you are the silence in a way. And
okay, so now there is a you, and it's the totality.
When I say you, I'm not talking about a separate person or you.
Okay.
Okay.
You're talking about God. You're talking about the big you now.
You can call it awareness, you can call it God, you can call it presence. That's what I'm pointing at all the time.
Is that a different you than what is thinking? Than what appears to be thinking?
No idea.
Okay, so there again, what we have is presence. Okay, as with the moniker of God, creating everything that we, including our thought, what we think to be our thought, and to somehow silence that thought will get you closer to presence. That's what you're saying, essentially.
Well, let's put it another way. If you project a shadow, you've got the sun behind you, and you project a shadow, or the body projects a shadow. Mm-hmm. Are you the shadow?
No, I don't think
You're
so.
not. Well, that's it. That's it.
No. Well, yes, and okay. So, okay. So, I think I understand what you're saying. I understand. I don't think that it's just kind of it's just words. It's just words.
Yeah.
So
it's always words.
It's just words, and it's beautiful, and
it's fun. It's fun.
It's actually fun. Yeah. I love it.
It doesn't really take you anywhere, but it's fun.
It never takes you anywhere, but at the same time, the most amazing thing is the paradox of actually watching somebody have a shift, or to share that shift with someone, and within the story, and you watch the shift, and you watch them, you see them realize or wake up, and they're truly at that moment, there is nothing to say, there literally are no words, and it's
well, it's I mean, if you, by other people's accounts, when we say other people, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Some people seem to be extremely suffer a lot with thoughts, thinking, compulsive thinking, and have a miserable time.
Yeah.
And some people don't in this dream, right? Yeah. And it appears that in the dream, it appears that some sort of a transmission of knowledge can happen. I'm saying appear, okay? Where upon seeing what's really happening, those thoughts lose their power. They no longer have any power.
Right. I like the I've heard so many people, say this one, but like God is he got tired of knowing everything, so decided to play this game with himself, and blah 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 blah. Mm-hmm. And the funniest aspect of that is
sounds like a story to me.
Right. Well, and
Yeah.
the funniest aspect of it, well, it is a story. God is
Yeah.
the God of stories in this aspect.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
the God of stories is the God of unknowability. And
Yeah.
as in that, if within this context, uh, it's almost like giving homage to God is to praise the unknowability, to love and greet the unknowability with appreciation and gratefulness. So
Yeah. Well,
within that, it just appeared to me like a commune of people that pray or like worship unknowability.
well, but on the other hand, the proud mind wants to know everything and believe it can know everything. So,
Right.
I mean, if I have to choose, I prefer to accept that the mind cannot know this, and that's it.
And so the God of the people that understand that knowledge is subjective, actually don't look for answers at all. They bask in the unknowability and beauty of the
Yeah,
fact. And the more you look, the less you know. So
yeah.
I can imagine a religion built around that whole, worship unknowability and make God happy.
I would make a distinction, and again, it's semantics. But I would make a distinction between knowledge and knowing.
Right. Well, okay. So knowing being
knowledge
not
is
so not,
just
is
what is mind, is thoughts, concepts, ideas. And there's a knowing which has nothing to do with concepts, thoughts, ideas. It's right. A different type of knowing.
Yes. So in that knowing of not knowing, because that knowing just is, but it can't be expressed within separation. Mm-hmm. So what we're talking about is the God not wanting to know everything, right? So that whole thing of like, he's playing this game with himself because he was tired of knowing everything. So he's created this thing, and we are now God not knowing. And to make God happy, I guess you could say, you can embrace the unknowability of it and appreciate the fact that the paradox exists as unknowability, but not that in that, if you somehow get closer to your own nature of godness, you will know anything. It's actually the opposite. You appreciate the fact that you can't know. And that is actually giving homage to what could be called this God of unknowability.
Yes. I'm actually running out of battery because my charger doesn't seem to be working. So I think we need to call it off now, Howard.
Thanks, brother.
I'm very short, but it's been great. I don't know how long it's been, but you must start making your interviews a bit shorter, or people won't want to see them.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've got to. I'm trying to. It's 4 hours something, but I don't know how much.
I think it's going to be rough for anybody trying to listen to these 4 or 5 hours of interview.
Oh, nobody's going to do it. But this is what I'm doing. I've got my page called sourcelessness.com.
Okay.
That I just opened up, and what I'm doing is I'm opening up a YouTube thing, and I'm getting a laptop here in the next week or so. That's identical to my tech guy, and I'm going to have all the storage. I'm going to learn how to edit all this stuff, and I'm just going to play with it. And I'm gonna hopefully be able to get you to come back, and we can do this again. And
sure. Yes.
Yeah, thank you so much.
We must do it again.
And what I will do is I'll make little digestible chunks out of it, and put little 10-minute spots or 5-minute spots in places.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, that's what the way I see it is. In its raw form, we can have these conversations as long as we like, and then I'll go back and edit it as we go and just take little snippets and make it a little. Is there something you wanted to plug along that line? I mean, is there like, do you have a site or a website?
No,
you said something about
actually, no, I don't.
Yeah,
not for now.
Great, man.
It's been great, Howard.
Thank you, Alex. From the bottom of my heart, thanks, man. Beautiful.
Take care.
See ya.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so we go here. Okay, so I take this. I stop the recording. Okay, yeah.